And we're live. 3, 2, 1. Here we go. What's going on, Clint? Good to see you, brother. Hope everybody's having a good Tuesday and a good week. You know the drill. Hope everybody had a good weekend. We can talk about what everybody got into. I got a few little. There's that notification from YouTube. Let me share this link with a few people here. Gotta share the love. So hope everybody had a good weekend. What did I miss? Anything? Oh, Epic Fury. Shit. I guess we're in a big conflict now. Probably not the best way to start the show, but yeah. Different news. So everybody's staying warm. We got another little cold snap. Been raining and cold last couple of days. It's been yucky here. Been horrible. There's the other YouTube channel. That might actually be on Facebook. That would be welcome. I ought to start splitting these screens so I can see the comments while I share the links. That'd be smart, wouldn't it? Yep. So what's going on this week? Oh yeah, as I was mentioning, went to a little birthday party this weekend and came back with some samples. 3 fine samples, man. I'm telling you, damn good. So we'll talk about that as I take a little sippy sip each of them. 3 very good distillers, some of the best among us. So it was definitely, well, I'll tell you about what they did. And talk about each of them as I have a little sippy sip here. It is Tuesday, so I won't be drinking a whole lot, especially after Saturday, man. I think I got drunk twice Saturday and Sunday morning. Got pretty hammered, had a good time. Wouldn't it be nice if they'd let me share all these? There's a pretty picture of Amanda. Holding a big jar. Yeah, that looks like a half a gallon. Yeah, it's a big wide mouth quart jar. And I didn't get to watch the show last night, so I had no idea what happened on there. About done, let's see. Yeah, I see. I think July 4th, America's going to be 250. I saw on one of the pages they were making a note of that. 250 America turns this year. And let's see, only a few more to go. They gonna let me do it? Drum roll. Yeah, damn. They let me do more than normal again, man. And You'd think with computers it'd be the exact same every week, right? But it varies. That's what's crazy about it. Sometimes you can do more, sometimes less. Crazy. Maybe it's at the speed at which I do it. I've been kind of dragging a little bit, going slower. Maybe that's got a little bit to do with it. I don't know. Keeps letting me do each one. I'm like, wow, I can't believe they let me do this one. And they surely won't let me do the next one. That's awesome. Maybe I'll be able to get them all done. There goes another notification. I think it's Facebook. Awesome. So getting notifications, allowed to post a few more times than usual. Up front. I guess they figure might as well just let him post them all up front instead of making him wait a damn hour. What's the difference? I don't see any difference. Hope y'all can hear me okay. Let me get these last few shared out. I was on a bit of a restriction. I did notice I didn't notice it before, but when I was looking through some of my old stuff this past week, I noticed that I did get reprimanded for something that violated community standards. I think maybe they had another look at it and realized that maybe we looked at that with the wrong angle. Definitely, we don't put up with hate speech or a lot of other stuff, and you know, really try not to talk too much about any of that. Awesome, I got to share them all tonight. That's great. That makes me happy. All right, and you know what? My daggone screen, I don't know if it's me or everything looks smaller now than it used to. Maybe it's me. Well, that might help it a little bit too. Yeah, everything looks smaller to me on my screen. I don't know. I don't know. What's going on, JJ? Good to see you. Old Sheen's in the house. What's up, Patty? Good to see you. Yeah, I missed everybody too, man. We had a good time, though. We went to a birthday party and hung out. Phil Billy, Joe Swisstock, and Wes Sandlin's birthday bash. Had a little party up at Wes. It was a good time. Gas is about to skyrocket. Well, I hope not, but, you know, maybe not. With Venezuela now changing, and that has pretty much the largest reserves, I think, I don't know, unless Iran hits a bunch of Saudi oil wells, I think we'll be all right. But it always does go up when there's turmoil in the Middle East. So that's a small price to pay for their freedom, I guess, and our safety. How you doing, JJ? What's up, O'Sheen? What's going on, Raccoon? Good to see you. Good to see you. I like your picture. What's going on, James? Good to see you, man. Good to see you up there in northern Canada. Here, I was just complaining about it being cold and wet, man. What we have today? Maybe in the 40s, low 40s, high 30. Oh, shit. Get to eat dinner, man. Gonna sit next to me here and get cold. Haven't been feeling good. I guess probably still hungover from this weekend. Yeah, it's going to warm up though. Today was the coldest day. It's going to warm up this next week. Nice, nice. I'm looking forward to some warm weather. How about you all? Good to have you with us, James Gray. There an artist named James Gray? I swear to God, the writing has to be smaller, man. It is. How do I make it big, man? Something's going on here. Maybe it's just my eyes. I swear, I know it's gotten smaller. You drank your Jameson, man. How do you got so many subscribers? Any tips? I just put out good content. It's mostly Fillbillies, and really, the key to Fillbillies is not. It's kind of opposite of what I do. So, I do like big long streams, but keeping it shorts on YouTube and TikTok and Facebook and stuff. Keeping the videos kind of short. A few minutes. Keep people engaged and stuff, and then you'll get most of your views that way. People see something's real long, a few hours, or an hour or two, and they're not going to sit and watch it. But this show's a little bit different than most of what his content is most of his contents, anywhere from a minute or a few to maybe 15 minutes, on an instructional type video. But here we have a little different format. We answer questions, instead of just putting the content out there for people to get. Here we let the crowd, kind of dictate the pace and ask the questions and let you all be, part of the show. So that's the way we're doing on this show is a little bit different than the others. Most of them just put content out there, kind of pick a topic and go with it. But, I thought it'd be nice to be able to, just answer people's questions because a lot of people, they'll watch a lot of videos. If you want to get a question answered, people say, oh, we'll go watch George, and Barley and Hops and great dude and great videos. I watched probably about all of them. But to sit down and try to watch all those shows just to get a question answered, it'd take a lot of time, lots and lots of time. So I figured we'd just get up here and answer questions. That way, people get a quick answer to their questions and we can make the hobby safe for everybody, and especially beginners, a lot of beginners, a lot of questions from beginners. Once you get a successful run, most moonshiners are pros then, right? So once everybody gets a good run or two in, they don't need any more instructions, man. I don't know how many people I've heard say that. I appreciate everything you taught me, but I'm good from here on out, man. I know it all, man. I got it down, and I like it, man. I'm happy that they got confidence. But just putting good content out there and being reliable, trying to be there every Tuesday and Saturday, or and keep posting. Don't take long breaks and stuff. Try not to do that but having good content, and being engaging and fun, that helps a lot. Drank through a bottle of Jameson. Now into the Kirkland 4 years. Is like Kirkland, and that's a store, isn't it? I've heard of Kirkland store. So that kind of like a Trader Joe's. I know Trader Joe's has some good stuff. Trying to think who it is that makes Trader Joe's. Might be a Heaven Hill. It might come from Heaven Hill. But Trader Joe's has a great bourbon. I've drank quite a bit of that years ago but I went to Evan Williams and Elijah Craig. I like those two. I like Heaven Hill products. They make some pretty good stuff for the money. It's not my favorite, but they make pretty good drink for the money. But tell us about the Kirklands. What's going on, Scott? Good to see you, brother. Good to see you. Hello, Miss Lisa. Good to see you as well. Hope you're staying warm and cozy up there. She's not quite as far north as you, James Gray, but she's she's north as far as we're concerned. She's up in the northeast, in the mountains. She's a mountain girl. I guess I said mountain woman. But very knowledgeable. I saw this thing today. I should have sent it to you. He says this thing on for Cynthia. They were talking about for Cynthia and how it's getting close to time to start making your for Cynthia tinctures. So you like that rye, huh? I like a little bit of rye, but not a lot. I don't like a heavy dominant rye, but I don't mind it having a small percentage of the grain bill. But I just don't like it the dominant. I don't want it being dominant. It's too spicy and peppery. What's going on, Curtis? Good to see you, brother. You smile. I saw this. I don't know if y'all saw the ad on Facebook. It's a grain company, and they had like 8, 8, 3, 3, 16, about 2,400. 8, 8, 16, no, 2,200 pounds of barley malt. A lot of beer making type malt, but whiskey making malt as well. Like $1,400. Man, it came out to about I think it's $34 per 50-pound bag for all those specialty malts. I mean, it wasn't chocolate malt, but it was a Pilsner malt, several different malts. I shared it with a couple of people. Might be able to find it here in a minute. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting. So I'm going to give him a plug here. Let me screenshot that. And this is for you guys out there that like JJ that likes to make beer. Yeah, let's see here. Man, my computer's slow. There's no reason this PC should be this damn slow. No reason it should be that slow. I might take my other one back up. Oh, I guess it was on there. All right, did y'all see this ad? Let me move this out of the way here. 800 pounds of Pilsner, 800 pounds of Pale, 300 pounds of Vienna, 300 pounds of Munich malt pallet, wrapped up and ready to roll. Free shipping. And that's 16 and 6. That's 2,200 pounds of malt. I guess North Dakota, but free shipping. Continental U.S. Yeah, I thought that was a pretty good deal. So if some of y'all want to go in on some malts, there it is. Talk amongst yourselves, work out your deals, and that's pretty good value. If you get 2 or 3 people to go in on that, it wouldn't be so bad. $300 or $400. Well, $400 by 4 people would be 16, so it'd be a little less than $400 a pop. And if you do a lot of malt, that'd be a pretty good bargain. Oh, let me put the comments back up there. What's going on, Mash Brothers? Good to see you. Yeah, you here on time today, man. I'm a little behind already, but you're on time. You fell asleep early today? I did too, man. I went to bed early today and slept till this afternoon. Then took a nap. I woke up about 7 something, a little after 7. Took me a shower, made me a couple sandwiches I hadn't had a chance to eat. I'll eat them later, I reckon. What's going on in Wisconsin? Good to see y'all on here. There's Cave Daddy. What's up, brother? Oh, ran out. That's the worst 2 words you might ever want to hear when it comes to liquor. That's why sometimes little sugar shine, just fits the bill, man. You get low, you run out. It's like, damn, I know I got that 10-pound bag of sugar up there, man. I could run it real quick, and hell, in 4 or 5 days I'll have some liquor. 'Cause they work off pretty quick. Homemade honey mead. Well, ain't nothing wrong with that. Definitely ain't nothing wrong with that. Honey mead's good. And every once in a while, if you get one that doesn't taste all that great, throw in her pot and run it just like we do wine. When we make brandy, the same thing. You get a mead run that's not that good. I do the same thing with wine. I get me a wine run and it's just not right, and I don't think aging's going to help. To the pot she goes. Make a little brandy. Uh-oh. Well, I've been kind of out of touch this weekend, man. You're going to have to tell us what happened there. What's going on, Evan? Good to see you. Good to see you, brother. Yes, sir. Yep. I got back just in time. Rode the headwinds. Good to see you on here, man. Oh, yeah, I heard about that. I thought you were talking about. So you didn't run the rest of it? You just put the lid back on. You never got her fixed? Series of reducers. So you just kind of reduce it down to get more pressure. I tell you what, that is one thing about if I was going to say anything bad about the football steel, and it's nice that they send a pump and make it all complete. But that pump, if you have that pump like at the same level as the fire, it'll pump up the couple feet head, But if you got a tower on there or a column or anything, man, that pump will not produce enough to get it up that high. So you have to get you upgrade the pumps. What I had to do, and I went to if you're buying pumps, read what these people that grow hydro. Um, they use these pumps 24/7. So if they talk about a pump that's really good, you know, it's usually something that's running 24/7 and they've had it a long time. So I got one of those Vivo Suns, and they say those are. And I don't get any kickbacks from the company, but they say those will last for a long time, running 24/7. So I don't know. Hopefully, it was cheap, but I guess head height they call it. That how high it'll pump up a tube, you know, with a given amount of pressure. And that's one thing that the little pump, it's just, I mean, it's okay for something that's on the, if you had a bucket right next to, you know, the steel and it's all on the same height. But if you've got that deflegmator like JJ's talking about 2 or 3 feet higher, it starts waning. Just had gallbladder surgery yesterday. Kind of put a halt to my mischievousness. Yeah, we got what they put the little teeny incision right above your belly button. I guess we got matching scars in. I got, what is it, above or I guess it's below your belly button now. I'm feeling right now. A little teeny scar about that wide right below my belly button. Is that the way they did yours? Yeah, they took mine out too, Cave Daddy. I was sicker than hell. I still ain't been right ever since. But we'll say cut back on your bacon and fats and sausage for a while. Because that'll upset your stomach. Hopefully you'll be able to get like I did. I mean, I forced myself to eat it. Hell, I'm going to eat bacon. Kirkland's is Costco. Yeah, okay. Cool. Yeah, I don't do the Costco, so I wouldn't. No, my dad does that. So I was thinking it was a grocery store, but yeah, I guess maybe it's one of their brands, store brands. Cool. But yeah, if y'all get a chance, if y'all have a Trader Joe's in your area, try their bourbon out. It's not bad at all. Pretty damn good, especially for the money. They sells pretty quickly here. I guess word got out. You know, now you got me. I'm gonna have to Google it, make sure what I'm saying is right. I can't. And I think it's Sazerac. It's made at the Barton Distillery in Bardstown. Yeah. So it's Buffalo Trace. Yeah. Okay. I can't remember. Have not Heaven Hills. Buffalo Trace then. Yeah. Sazerac. Good stuff. It is. It's good stuff. And they also now, I didn't know this, but they now have a $30 barrel entry proof. So I'm guessing that's 120 or 30 proof. So that sounds interesting. I haven't tried that yet. But there's a Sazerac Buffalo Trace. Yeah, that's why it's so damn good. What's going on, Bennett? Did you first all grain 2 pounds per gallon? Good, good. Next time going 3 pounds per gallon. Got a specific gravity of 1042. Um, Steeped instead of cooking. Have how it is on. Now let's go over your process. Now you steeped it at 185 to 95 for at least 90 minutes plus. You know, go 90 minutes to 2 hours till it gelatinizes. So, but 3 pounds can get pretty thick. You know, maybe step it up to 2.5. 1042 is a tad on the low side for 2 pounds a gallon. You should be get about a 1055, 1065 range. So we can probably dial in maybe something that'll make it better for you next time. So kind of go over everything you did, and kind of go over your process. Now tell me, at what temperature did you steep? Did you maintain that temperature? You know, I talk about, you know, like if you got 20 gallons of water, put 15 in there with the corn, and then save that extra 5 out and keep it boiling. That way you can keep adding hot water, you know, to your steep to make sure that it holds that temperature, because it's critical that it holds that temperature. And if not, it's fine. You just have to go longer, right? So, you know, if you can't keep it 185, 195, then, you know, for 90 minutes to a couple hours, then you know, go a little longer. Go and when I say a little bit, if it drops down below 180, add an hour. Really, it gets like that. 160, add 3 hours. You know, when 50, you know, 10 hours, right? So it increases quite quickly, you know, with the corn and gelatinizing the corn that way. But we can probably dial it in. Did you use the powdered or the high temp amylase? Now I know the powder, you know, for a powder alpha, that's close to about, you know, 1050, 1055 with the powder. I could get. Really wasn't pleased with a lot of that, but let's go over. You know, give us your steps. What we know that you had 2 pounds of grain per gallon. That's good. Talk about what amylase you use, temperatures and times, and maybe we can dial that in for you a little bit and get a little better result next time. Well, you put a little honey in your thumper. That'd probably be pretty good. Sweeten her up. Yeah, I mean, but you know, 1042 isn't a failure by any stretch of the imagination. That's okay. It's on the low side, but it's still okay. You know, you can get some really good smooth liquor out of that. So, you know, it's not lost. You know, it's not a loss at all. You can throw a little dextrose in there to bump it up a little bit. Anytime mine's you know, uncharacteristically low. I mean, sometimes things happen. Temperatures, you know, and just maybe efficacy of the amylase kind of starts slacking. You know, again with that powder. You know, I used to have to keep a little dextrose on hand to bump it up a little bit to get it where I wanted to get a pretty decent run. But you know, 1042 is not a failure. You know, that's okay. You know, it's going to make some good smooth liquor. So don't. You know, it's nothing to hang your head down for. Oh, I got another question. No stupid questions, brother. No stupid questions. That's the only stupid question is the one that wasn't asked, and you know, so don't ever worry. You know, and this to all the viewers and listeners out there, if you have questions, don't feel bad about asking them. Everybody has to ask these questions. Nobody's born with this knowledge, so you know, this is one of the best places to ask. You know, and well, that's a good question. When people make a brandy, they expect a lot of flavor, right? You have to understand that the distillation process is a process that's designed to remove impurities, right? So when we distill water, we distill water so we can get just pure water and remove all the other impurities, right? Which does well at that, right? So, and distilling alcohol does the same thing. It removes a lot of the impurities out of it. We do know that there's a lot of congeners and other things that carry forward. It's an azeotrope, so there's a lot of other compounds that bind with it that, are hard to separate with just regular pot still. So, you know, getting flavor coming across is one of the, telltales of whether it was successful or not. So if you can make a brandy and you can take a drink of it and you can tell what fruit it's made with by just drinking it, that I call that a success. Now, is it going to be knock you down, smack you in the face like I'm drinking apple juice? No, it's just not going to be that way. That's why a lot of people use the infusers and 2 or 3 infusion jars or rigs. I recommend the rigs instead of the jars, but both work. I think the safety wise, I have to kind of promote the rigs because of their safety. I don't want anybody, having jars break on them or shatter while they're trying to do the rum. But that's why I came out with that bypass too, to make it, make it safe. But infusing, with applesauce, and apple cider in your infusers, concentrated apple juice, the frozen concentrates. Now, not frozen, you want to thaw it out and get it warm, right? You don't want anything cold going in there like that because it's hot. And you don't want to infuse something cold into a hot jar for sure. It'll be shattered. But, yeah, frozen concentrates work real well. But, for me, and times are changing, used to, nobody, it'd be unheard of to post flavor. But when it boils down to it, what's the most important thing to you? It being clear or it tasting good? For me, it's tasting good anymore. So proofing it down with some apple juice or some concentrated, apple juice or something like that, there's nothing wrong with it, right? You start with 160 proof and proof it down to 100 with some apple juice or cider if you prefer cider. You still have 100 proof alcohol, that's very strong. It's not going to be clear anymore. It's going to have a slight yellow tint, and but it's going to taste good. If that's the most important thing to you is taste, then I recommend you do that. If the most important thing is bragging rights and it's got to be clear, it's got to be off the tap, and it's got to taste like apple, then you're going to have to get you some infusers and or really hone your brandy techniques. And there's a few out there without infusers that can pull, some delicate flavors to carry forward, but it's very difficult. It's very difficult to do, and it's something experience will help with a lot. But certain fruits carry better than others. Like peaches or something like that. It's definitely better than a pear, or something like that. So, but the infusion rigs and inline infusers, things like that, definitely help. Midwest Supplies. Well, this 30 something for a 50-pound bags of these Bryce, and they're Bryce malts. This isn't, these are good quality malts. Awesome. That'll give you a little flavor in there with that rest of it. Now, did you put your oyster shells in there for your pH buffer and some nutrients? Got to have some of those nutrients in there with it. Yeah, it's just going to be a very subtle hint. That's why we say if you can tell what it is, it's good. So, all right, here we go. Referring to the first comment, yeah, it's actually 2.5 pounds per gallon. Okay. Um, yeah, you probably didn't get it all. Yeah, but it's not bad for a first time. It's awesome. Definitely. Yeah, we can get it up there a little bit for sure. So just again, just go over your steps, and if you want to, I mean, you can send me a message on Facebook if you don't want to pour everything out here on the show, and I would rather you did. That way we could talk about it. But if it, it's not taking up our precious time. That's what we're here for, brother. It's all you, man. So ask away and let us know exactly what you did, and we can get that up there for sure, especially at 2.5 per gallon. So let us know what kind of corn you started with. Did you buy cracked corn, or did you meal down some corn? Did you start with cornmeal? Um, what other grains did you add? Sounds like to me like you may have added some other grains. So give us the skinny on it all, brother. Yeah, I know. But if we went 3 or 4 people, or five, went in on it, it wouldn't be so bad. Especially if you beer makers, JJ. I thought you made a lot of beer, man. But yeah, if you know somebody though that's like a little craft distiller or a beer maker, maybe share that with them. What's up, Hillbilly? Good to see you, brother. Can you solder brass to copper? Absolutely. They do it all the time. Sheen, anytime you go from copper to like galvanized steel in old home plumbing, or to steel pipe, um, you have to put, or like going from copper into the top of a lot of water heaters and stuff, you have to put some kind of brass or something in between it because of the galvanic action of the two metals together. So brass is used in a lot of plumbing to prevent the galvanic action between copper and steel. Now copper and stainless, not so bad, but carbon steel, yeah, it's bad. So that's why in all of your plumbing, anytime that you go from, most old homes had galvanized, plumbing, galvanized pipe, right? My old house did. I replaced it all with copper, but yeah, most of them, have galvanized, and it comes from the underground. A lot of those old houses is galvanized. Nowadays, it's copper and PEX, but back in the day, it was galvanized. So if you do any plumbing in those old galvanized houses, and you add any copper to it, you have to put a little brass in between the two. Yeah, yeah, you can definitely solder it for sure. My chair's squeaky. Can y'all hear that squeak? Is it very loud? Because to me it is. It drives me nuts. I'm going to have to get me a new chair. Homemade honey mead. Well, there ain't nothing wrong with that. I like me some honey mead. Matter of fact, for the last couple of weeks, I've been drinking honey shine, made from a mead. Yeah, you're just going to have just enough to tell that it was apple if you do well. Yeah, it works fine. Yeah, it does. See, I was done a little plumbing. Yeah, anytime you go from galvanized to copper, or like if you're going to copper into a water heater that's galvanized, you really need to put a piece of brass in between it, and that just something about the way the electrons flow from one to the other. It's kind of an electrolysis thing, but it's called galvanic action, and it's there's a donor and a recipient metal, and it donates electrons to the recipient. And there's a charge that's actually happening there, an ionic charge. And over the years, man, it'll go to where it just thins out to where it's just nothing. It'll start leaking, and it'll rupture on you. And yep, so that's why they put brass in between them, and it'll stop that galvanic action. The electrons can't transfer from one to the next. But it's got to be so many inches, of brass. 10%. It's cool. 10% is 20 proof, ain't it? That's awesome. A lot better than a beer. Thoughts on turbo yeast. I'm doing a quick sugar shine with reflux to vodka. There's a lot better yeast out there. That's pretty much all I got to say about that. Some people like it, some people don't. It's basically a yeast with a lot of nutrients and a lot of other things added, and many say probably too much. And it's fine for making fuel. I think that might have been its original design, but there's probably some decent turbo yeast out there. I just haven't tried any of them or had any of them. But I wouldn't. I think they maybe add too much nutrients in it. I've never really tried. I've tried several different ones, not a lot, several different ones, and they weren't all that good. There's a lot better yeast out there, brother. But some people swear by it, and if they like it, then it's good for them. I've just not tried any that I prefer. I would try something more concentrated, right? I mean, some people will put apple candy, hard apple candy. Some people will go with a frozen concentrate. Some will go with a cider and applesauce. Anything to give it that hint, just that hint of flavors again, so you can tell that it's apple. Also, proofing it down. Proof it down little by little. There might be a spot or a specific proof where you'll get more flavor than others. Some early might be high proof to where you're really masking the flavor, and just proof it down slowly, little by little, to a point where you might taste it and get more coming through. And then, of course, if you add too much water, it's just going to dilute it and you can't taste it any at all. So, again, a lot of tasters just, little by little add water, a little bit more water, taste it, another shot, a little bit more water, and try to back your way into what proof it needs to be. And that's the way really you should proof any alcohol down, to get the best character out of it, right? Slowly proof it down, or just, have you several different jars out there, 100 proof, 110 proof, 120 proof, 130 proof, 90 proof, and just take a little sips of each and try to decide where where the best spot is in between. Yeah, it'll help. Thumpers, see, the problem with thumpers are generally they're sized to about a quarter to a third the size of the pot, right? And that's a lot, right? So if you're running a 20-gallon pot, you got a 5 to 8 gallon, thumper. And that's a lot of space to fill, because if you don't, it's just going to get a lot of water, and it's going to kind of, it's going to dilute the flavor, right, with all the water and everything that's getting left behind in the thumper. That's what the thumper does. It helps remove water and a few other things and congeners from the distillate, and that's why it increases proof. So thumpers aren't flavor infusers. Thumpers are there to basically help you cook tails into your liquor, and B, increase the proof. That's the whole purpose of a thumper. To increase the flavor we size it down to small rigs, small little mini thumpers, if you want to look, if you will, little mini thumpers with a drain and an infusion port. And of course, my bypass on there, so you can bypass it as you infuse it, and then open up the bypass and go back into it once you got it reinfused. A lot of people, every quart of liquor they get off there, they only, bypass it, reinfuse their jars, and then open the bypass up, and the next quart do the same, and that way they keep a good concentration on there. You can't just put it in there and let it run all the way through and expect it to be strong, because you'll have a few jars that'll have concentrate, a little more flavor than others, but once you mix them all together, it gets lost. So, using something smaller where it's more concentrated, where you can dump new flavor in. Once it gets a little watery, you drain it out of the bottom, and then dump more of the infusion flavors in, and continue to do that every pint or quart, depending on the size you set up. That will be much better than just trying to dump a bunch in a big old thumper where it's getting diluted down really quickly. And having a multiple jar, having a 2 or 3 rig, not necessarily jar. I prefer copper, but it's going to be a lot more expensive, and it's generally for larger setups when you have a gallon, several 1 gallon copper rigs, but that's the best. Appreciate you, brother. Well, hit that like button, hit that bell, and join us for conversations on here. We're here Tuesday and Thursday, unless I'm at a festival or at a party or something, or I'm sick, Lord forbid. But yeah, we're here every Tuesday and Saturday, 8 Eastern. So come visit with us and hang out and have a drink and talk about your successes and your failures. We all have them. What's going on, Chris? Yeah, Chris built them elevators, man. He's the grain elevator man. That link I posted, you know them people? You may know them up there. It's up around your country. You know them, Chris? That's North Dakota. That's a little west of you there, but next to you. We have somebody else from Wisconsin in here tonight. In Minnesota. But yeah, that's up there next to you, brother. But for anybody that's wanting a good deal, I mean, that's a lot of money, and I know that's more than, most of us would use in a long time. We're hobbyists, but if you got a bunch of buddies, or you got, some friends in the craft distillery, or you got a bunch of buddies and you want to go in on it, that wouldn't be too bad. I'm going to try to get 3 or 4 or 5 people to go in on it, and because barley, for me, it's expensive. All my other grains, my rye, my corn, my wheat, I can get dirt cheap. But barley, I haven't really found a good deal on barley. Anybody goes around here, they grow it for a distillery, and they don't sell nothing to nobody except the distillery, and that's it, and they don't even talk to you. They're contracted to do it, so they can't really. Lord, half horse. I get these. I tell you, the Vibo son makes a good one, But that's a lot of if you got a big deflagrator though, and you got a steel and a really tall column, you're going to need something like that. Unless you got plumbing, run high, from home plumbing or something, run up high or something. It's if you depend on your pump for the head height, it's you got to get it pretty good one. And that Vibo Sun is good, and pond pumps are generally pretty good. It's only bad if you don't do it in moderation. That's what it is. It's good for you if you do just a little bit. Shot a day will keep the doctor away. Or is that an apple? I don't know. Maybe an apple and a shot a day. Well, you might tell us what that's like. All right, here we go. On a 4-inch column, how much does each bubble plate make a difference in your proof? Is 4 plates good or more better? It depends on the steel, probably, I would guess, underneath it. So, if you got a 10, 20 gallon steel, 4 plates on a 4 inch is going to be sufficient. If you got a 40-gallon steel, you might put a double set of those up there, right? And also, what proof you're shooting for, and having a deflagmator at the top versus not makes a big difference as well. Huge difference. I have a question about using bread. I think I can get a ton of it cheap. Is the grain gelatinized already, and can I just use glucose to break it down? Well, no. Even if it's gelatinized, you still have to use the alpha to debranch, right? So it's still complex starches, even in the bread. I would say, yeah, cooking the bread, baking it probably gelatinizes it. But yeah, use your alpha. Heat it all up. Use your alpha to break up all the starches into, smaller oligosaccharide chains, and then use your glucose to break it further down. So always, yeah, anytime you have a starch, whether it's from a vegetable or, bread or whatever, grain or whatever you've got, cereal, whatever, you still need to use that alpha to break it up and to, take it from complex to an oligosaccharide, which is kind of in between a simple sugar and a complex sugar. So you got polysaccharides, complex, mono and disaccharides is simple, and the oligosaccharides are 3 to 12. So that's kind of the in betweens, right? So you need the alpha to make the oligosaccharides, and then you need the glucose or beta glucanase, depending on what you got, and or both, to help break those down into more simple sugars. And if you got something with a lot of glucans, you want to use the beta glucanase as well, right? So if you start introducing a lot of unmalted rye, unmalted barley, unmalted wheat, things of that nature, where you're not going to get the benefit of the endogenic enzymes in those, then you need to add some kind of liquid glucanase, or that sebamil, like Clint talks about. It's got a mixture. It's a combination of several different amylases at once. So those work real well too. Okay, here we go. So I got 8 gallons of water. Okay. Up to 200, put on corn, and then another 2 gallon to rolling boil. High temp, added almost immediately due to temp dropping. That's it. I would say that's probably it. You want to keep some water boiling on the side, so the temp will immediately drop. So the trick is, in here, you wanted to, okay, 8 gallons. Start out with 8, and for 10 gallons, so you got 25 pounds of corn or grain. So have that steeping. Now, having a cooler or something insulated that will help you hold that temperature is a big plus. It's a huge plus. It will make the difference that you're looking for right there alone. But having a big cooler or a barrel with insulation in barrel inside of a barrel, so you get a big 55-gallon plastic barrel and get one of those tall 40s or something, and put in between it and get some spray foam or styrofoam peanuts, whatever you can pack in there, right? They've got this styrofoam foundation foam that comes in an inch sheet, 4x8. You can break that up into little pieces. It's good to put one big round piece in the bottom to help keep that middle barrel off the ground a little bit, so you get a little insulation there too. But just packing anything around it, will help. Some people just use blankets around their barrels. Anything to help hold that heat in. So once we got that taken care of, put your 10 gallons of water. So you take 8 out of it, keep another 2 boiling, and just slowly add it. But you need to keep that temp at 190 degrees or thereabouts for 90 minutes to 2 hours, right? So that's probably where it probably got a little south on you. Is it probably cooled off? It is okay to use the high temp amylase at front, right at the beginning. I tend to wait. I like to see my corn gelatinize, and I like to see it thicken. That way I know, when it's about getting ready. But that's not a must. You can go by temperature and time, which, you should be able to do. But you've got to maintain that temperature. So take that first 8 gallons at 200 plus, boiling, roll and boil, 210, as hot as you can get it. Put that corn in there. It's not going to hurt the corn to get it, we're not worried about any enzymes that are built into the corn. But you don't want to go in with too hot. That'll denature even your high temp alpha, right? So that's 185. So we go in with the 200, we stir that, we keep adding that boiling, we keep it hot for a good 90 minutes, 185, 95 plus. If you can keep it hotter, that's fine, and just wait to add your amylase. You can do it either way, but if you add your amylase up front, you got to keep it 185 for 90 minutes to 2 hours. If you don't, then you can go a little hotter by putting that boiling water in there and keeping it 190, 200 if you can. But it's hard to keep it at 200. It really is. But I think that's probably what's happened is it didn't fully gelatinize because it didn't stay hot enough long enough. And it's okay if it takes a little bit longer. So if your temperatures drop a little bit, it's just going to increase the time. But like I was saying, the time increases exponentially as you go further. As the temperatures drop, you have to go 3 times. As every 10 degrees is like triple, the time. So, but yeah, I would say that's probably where it is. And yeah, you can use the iodine to check for starches. But definitely, I think that might be where we went a little bit south, is not keeping that temp up. And 1042 is not all lost, so you'll get some good alcohol out of that, and it'll be very smooth, right? So on the bright side, you'll make a very smooth liquor. You won't get a high production of it because you don't have a lot of alcohol content to begin with, and but it'll be good. With if it's all stainless, you don't have to worry about flux, right? Because there's no flux being used in that. So you don't really have to do vinegar, right? Vinegar's not going to be of much benefit. But a lot of people, and I'm kind of the same. I've gotten to the point where I like using vinegar for the acidic content or citric acid, and then running a sacrificial run of alcohol to get anything that is the alcohol is a solvent to. The problem you run in with stainless steel is a lot of polishes and greases. If you've seen how these are made, they basically put this disc inside a hydraulic punch that just poof, it punches down and it forms a pot, right? Some of them are done by hand and where it's spinning, and that's different. Most are done by a hydraulic punch, most of these Chinese pots. So they got this big, huge hydraulic press that comes down and forms a pot out of a flat piece. All over that hydraulic ram is manufacturing greases, okay? And it has to make it bend, folds, and so it's on both sides. So it's in on the press part, and in the I don't know blank that is pushing into, right. So all that grease gets forced into that with that big huge pressure, punch that comes down and forces it in there like that. So you got manufacturing greases and oils in there to start with. Then they take it out and clean it as best they can, which is not usually great. Trust me, not that great. And then they start using buffing compounds, right? So they polish it using polishing compounds and buffing, and they buff it and they polish all this in, all right, to make it shiny and pretty. Well, those buffing compounds aren't good for your liquor either, right? So I like using alcohol to get those out. So basically, you can take just your regular isopropyl alcohol. You're not drinking it. Once it gets used, it evaporates and goes away. It's not going to leave a residue that's going to poison you. It's stuff that you put in a cut, right, directly into your skin, into your bloodstream. So no, it's not going to kill you, right? So a lot of people are scared of it. It's like, oh, alcohol. I'm like, do you put that in your cuts and in your bloodstream? Well, I guess I do. Of course we do. So it's not going to kill you. It's not something you're drinking, but it is something that will help break down. So go with some Dawn, hot water and Dawn to start with to get all the grease that you can off. Really hot water and Dawn. Rub it good as you can. And rinse it ultra hot water. If you got a dishwasher that gets really, really hot, that'd be awesome. And then get you some isopropyl and get you a white rag. And just pour that isopropyl very, liberally on that rag and just start rubbing. And I mean on the inside of your pot. The outside doesn't matter, right? So you don't have to worry about the outside of your pot. Inside that pot and inside the lid. Rub it down. Rub it hard. I mean, put some elbow grease into it. And you'll start seeing some gray compound coming out. You will get some of that out. Definitely clean that way. And then with your columns and stuff, I generally just use the alcohol inside and out. I'll roll it up and pull it through, and that's about as good as you're going to do. If you had a drill with one of these pipe clean, what they call it, the bottle brushes or something like that was large enough to get in there and scrub and get some alcohol and scrub it out with that or something would be cool. But yeah, something like that's great. I've got bottle brushes that I use for my shotgun condensers, to help clean them out and stuff. But yeah, really getting into it with the alcohol and a rag will help break down, and it's a solvent for most of that stuff that the Dawn doesn't do. And then if you want to, you can run you a sugar wash, right, and run it through. And the reason we do just a sacrificial run like that is to get anything that you can't get at, right, in a lot of corners and inside your shotgun condensers and little things like that. You may, miss some of this polishing compounds and stuff, and it's nasty, And so do that once and just throw it away. Just make your sugar wash, and after you get done, just pitch it. Use it to light your charcoal for your cookouts, or if you got a fire in the fireplace, you can use it to get a good fire started, and you soak your paper in it so it'll light up pretty quickly. But yeah, it's but you don't have to, you don't have to do the vinegar run with a stainless setup that you would, a copper setup. Let's see how far behind I am. 8:36. Now, oh my goodness, I'm 40 minutes behind. Okay, then another hour and a half to drop below 160. Okay. I might have missed something there. 2 gallons. Started temp high temp added almost immediately due to temp dropping. Let it sit for 90. I'd say that's what's happened though, Bennett, is letting it sit for the 90. It probably needs to sit once those temps start dropping like that, and if you can't keep that temp up, um, it basically when we talk about steeping, we're trying to replace the cooking so we don't scorch. So it really needs to stay at that temperature for an extended amount of time, as if you were cooking it, without the risk of scorching it. So a lot of people continue to cook, and that's great. You can use like a double boiler if you got a big enough setup. You can do that, and that will definitely help eliminate the scorching risks. But the steeping method is good, but you really have to keep that temp up to 190, 185, 190 for the 90 minutes to 2 hours. And then once you do that, then add your high temp. Once it gets thick and gelatinized, it'll go from like it'll be like cream corn. It thickens, and you'll notice it once it thickens up good for you and gelatinizes. You're basically leaching all the starches out of the corn basically with the high temp. And I would say that's probably where you, if you need to focus on anything, I'd say that would be where to focus, would be on maintaining that temperature for a longer period of time. And yeah, if the glucose says 110, go by the package. Go by what it says on your package, because different ones are, have you adding it at different temperatures. Got roughly 7. So you started with 10 gallons and now you're down to 7. Yeah, it's always best to make more. And, it's not, you can sour mash, right? So you can take what's left in there. You probably still have some starches that could be converted. And maybe the glucose will help break down a lot, right? Maybe when you tested it, the glucose really hadn't had a chance to do a lot of work yet. So maybe it'll help break it down, and you may end up getting a little bit more than a 1046. You may end up getting a 10050 or 10052 or something like that, right? Once the glucose breaks it down, because the glucose is actually breaking it down while the yeast is still working. So, it may end up being a little better than you thought. But yeah, it's always best to make a little bit more. And with the next batch, you can throw a little bit of sugar on top of that, and make your little Uncle Jesse sweet, simple sour mash, and kind of do our little combo thing we talk about. Make a little sour mash out of it to try to get as much out of it as you can. And there's nothing that says that you have to match the amount that you mash in to the size of your still. It's so much easier to do more because it'll keep, right? So as long as you keep it covered up, and especially if you have it under an airlock, but as long as you keep it covered up and keep the animals, the insects, and everything, all the critters out of it, it'll keep, and unless it's in a really moldy environment or something like that, where you have a lot of mold or pollen, there's molds in the air. Man, my allergies are killing me. Have a lot of molds and stuff in the air, then you definitely want to probably use an airlock. But it'll keep, right? So you can just siphon off 5 or 10 gallons, whatever size your still is, and run it, and then you'll have 20, 30, 40, 50 more gallons ready to go. Anytime you're ready to run, you can run it again. And given that time, you're giving everything a little bit more time to break it all down. Yeah, and one thing that you can do, you can get 2 identical buckets, and in one of them you can drill lots of teeny perfect little holes all over the very bottom of it, and a little bit on the sides if you know, on the sides, and then put your grain in that bucket, and then put the other bucket that has no holes in on top of that, and just start pressuring it, right, and putting, and it'll start squeezing it all out, right, and you just have to have that inside a pot or something to catch it. I've seen people make little cider presses like that, right? Or you can get a brew bag. I used to let it just sit in a brew bag, tied up to a ladder, and put a bucket underneath it and just let it sit and drip all night. That works. Then you can get the mop wringers, right? The old mop wringers that wring out the mop to press a brew bag. That works fine too. I've got one of those. Oh, you're making your sugar wash for a cleaner now. Okay. Use tomato paste. Well, it's not the best nutrient, JJ. I mean, it's a great supplemental nutrient, but you need yan and fan, and it just doesn't have the yan and fan that you need. Just old dead yeast from a prior ferment. If you don't have a prior ferment, you can get you some just cheap bread yeast and boil it, and that's probably the best nutrient that you can use. Right? It's the same as the Fermo. It's an organic nutrient, probably the best you can do. Bran flakes, an old expired thing of bran flakes works great. It doesn't have to be fresh. It can be stale. But old bran flakes or raisin bran, the raisins help give it a little bit of flavor. But the tomato paste has some good stuff in it. There's a lot of biotins and calcium and a lot of nutrients and stuff that will benefit. Um, but it just doesn't have the yeast assimilable nitrogen and the free amino nitrogen that you need for the sugar washes. So, or for rum washes, or for tequila washes, or any high sugar syrup type wash. Um, Definitely boiled yeast, dead yeast hulls, or the bran, or a combination of the two works really, really well. Tomato paste helps. It's a good supplement. I mean, it definitely adds some good nutrients that are essential. Zinc being another one of them. So there's a lot of good things in tomato paste. I used to be totally against it because it didn't have the yan and fan, but once I did some research on it, I realized that it does have a lot of beneficial things in there, but it's lacking the most important two things, and that's the yan and fan. Has a little, but nowhere near enough. So it's great though for a supplemental, and it's if you could add that with tomato paste and some yeast hulls and maybe some bran flakes, you'd have the best of all worlds, and get a little bit from each of them. Yeah, that should definitely add some flavor. I think Chris was saying that. Yeah, K rose syrup or brown sugar. I like we were talking earlier, a little brown sugar in there helps. I think Scott was talking about that. How long do I boil oyster shells to clean them up? Oh, about 5 minutes or so. It just bring them up to temp and make sure if there's any bacteria in there, I want to make sure it's dead. They say it's purified on the bag and everything, but I just feel better, and if there's any off flavors from any bacteria or anything like that, organisms in there, I want it all out. And so I boil it 5 or 10 minutes, and once you do it, you're good. But after each use, I'll rinse it out, and then before I use it again, I'll boil it to kill off any bacteria that may be trying to go in there. Because a lot of times, if you got like a fruit, brandy or something like that, or if you got particles of grains or sugars, not so much, but anything organic left behind, starts to decay, start getting problems. So I just boil them up, put them in that little bag and rinse them out and let it sit. And then right before I'm ready to use it again, also, you might get a little mildew if it sits in that bag like that wet. you can open that bag up and spread them out, let them dry, and air dry good, and should be good to go. And then just throw it in there and boil it. You can boil it with the water you're getting ready to do the mash, right? The same water that you're heating up to add your sugar to and all that. You can just throw it in there with it and kill everything off and just carry it on over. Before you add the sugar, just use some tongs and just throw it over in the pot and get it ready, and just pour your sugar water right over on top of it or whatever. Uh-oh. Technical difficulties. Oh, hey, you're doing a fine job. I'm way behind. Local farmer cracked corn. Okay. More fine, good mix of fine particles and cracked kernels in between cornmeal and cracked. That's good. That's fine. Then really the finer it is, the usually a little higher conversion number you get, but it's a little bit harder to separate in the end. So yeah, I'd say the temp, probably keeping that temp for a little longer period was your biggest problem. You're replacing your plumbing too. What is it, the PEX? Got 2 barrels of sour slop ready to roll. That's awesome, brother. That's awesome. That's a good feeling in it, man. Having all that ready to rock and just, when you don't have to do anything, you can go out there and just dip and run. You don't have to cook. You don't have to do everything. See, that's the big thing about if you make a mash for just the size of your steel, every time you want something, you have to go out and mash it all and steep it and go through all that, grind it down, and get everything out, right? And that's half the work is getting the grinder out, getting it set up, getting the extension cord, getting all the grains out there, where's that t-shirt I use my long sleeve shirt for to keep that grain powder from going everywhere. You have to get everything together, all your steeping, all my barrels, here's my cooler, you have to get all this stuff out. So, it's a prep time, right? And so there's a lot of prep time. If you have to repeat this every time you do a run, it not only becomes arduous, it just makes the hobby seem like work, right? So a lot of people get this, uh, they don't do it as often as they normally would because it's a lot of work. So if you just do the same motions, you're doing the same thing regardless of how much you make. So if it's a small 5-gallon bucket or a 50-gallon barrel, you still have to get everything out, get everything set up, get everything ready, get the water boiling, it's just a little bit more than that you have to do, right? Um, I'm talking about not killing the yeast that you're using. I'm talking about just using but yeah, if it's just a sacrificial run, it's probably not going to be a biggie. And it doesn't matter. We're not worried about flavors and all that. So yeah, it's not a big deal. But if you're making a sugar wash to drink, and I would definitely, tomato paste is fine, but I definitely use a little bit different nutrients. But yeah, as a sacrificial run, we don't care if it has some off flavors or not, right? It's not going to be drank. Yeah, you can just add, anytime that you're cooking your corn first, when you add your other grains, like barley, you'll add those at a lower temperature, and you'll want to hold those temperatures if it's a malted barley and you're wanting to use the diastatic power of the malts itself. So if it's not malted and you're not concerned about the diastatic power, then those holding times aren't as essential. It's more or less for flavor. So you don't have to recognize those times. And I'll put a chart up here like I always do because I like this chart. And if you don't have this chart, it's definitely something to. Man, my PC is got a little slight lag that my old one that's not near as good didn't, and I'm very perturbed about that. I don't. This thing's supposed to be zippy as hell, and it is not. Here it is. So if you don't have this, this is in the file section in the Moonshine Militia and in the DIY Shine and stuff. It's a great thing to have on your phone. It gives you gelatinization and temps to add all of your barleys and all your different grains, even some vegetables. It's got arrowroot, tapioca, pudding, rice, oats, barley, not barley, barley malt, barley regular, millets, everything, corn. So definitely a good little chart to have. Do you think White Dog is the best benchmark for a quality whiskey, and should every distillery release a White Dog option for consumers? The grain flavor is the best part. Well, it's basically what they go into their barrel with, right? So, I think it's great for moonshiners to try. That way, they understand what a pretty good range of what their liquor should taste like, right? Before they go into the barrel. So and it gives it probably will encourage a lot of people to understand that what they've got is pretty good, right? So I've tasted my moonshine, or somebody might think I've tasted my shine, and it just doesn't taste like whiskey, man. That's not tasting right, and it's not going to, because it doesn't have any barrel character yet. So once you put it in the barrel, it develops a lot of flavor. I know there's a lot of contention on how much flavor it actually adds. Um, I use the 60/80. Some people are like, oh no, it's really not. It's that's an opinion. 40 to 60, 60/80. Um, but I think the 60/80 has been pretty much used and what I've understood and my experience. So maybe it's less depending on the char of the barrel. Like if you have a less charred barrel and a lighter toast, then it may not have as much impact as a heavier toast like a lot of people tend to use. So I think that might have some play into that as well. But I think it'll encourage a lot of moonshine makers because they'll realize that, hey, mine's not so bad, because before it goes in the barrel, this is what theirs tastes like. And, well, because it just coming off the tap fresh, you know, um, try some of the White Dog, try some of the different White Dogs on the market. And you'll see that it's not what you're putting out is not as bad as what you think. You know, it's pretty good. And that it's about time for me to have a little sippy sip. Let's see, this is alright, here's some oh. Now I think we're stocking Derek. This is Joe's. I think it's a 6 grain. And then I think Derek's is a 3 grain, if I'm not mistaken. Both of them really, really good grain liquors. And they mix both of these together at the party and put it in a 15-gallon barrel, I guess. We're going to drink maybe next year. Now this is Derek's. Yeah, Derek's 3 grain. And I didn't get a proof on it, but I can usually tell by the taste. Really, really good flavor. Man, that's really good. That's excellent. Very, very good flavor. Doesn't get any better than that right there. You know, if you could put that in a barrel, I mean, most of your white dogs, they're not that good. That you're getting from these big companies and stuff, yeah, they're not as good as these. These are, you know, Derek and Joe, both probably some of the best distillers in the groups, man. They're both seasoned and experienced and very good. Different nose. This is the 6 grain. It's got a little more proof to it. Very good flavor. Both excellent. And be very interesting together. Very interesting together. I'm not going to pick a favorite. But this is damn good. Just for 3 grain. The 6 is awesome, but Derek, that's excellent, man. That's really, really good. Did a real good job, man. Those two combined are going to be very complementary to each other, and I really am looking forward to drinking some of that next year. Both very good. Multi-grain. Definitely going to be good stuff. And they complement each other very well because different unique flavors, profiles. Very good. Both did an excellent job. Both really, really good distillers, man. Very good. Definitely. I think that's not the first of Derek's I've drank, but the first I remember. I've probably had some at Farm to Bottle before and just don't remember it, but he does a damn good job. Here's Wes's brandy, apple brandy. I don't get a lot of apple, but it's 140 proof, and it's probably the smoothest 140 proof just about I've had. Okay, that's my hair. I'm like, damn. That's good stuff, man. It's very smooth for 140. No, you don't. I would not walk away from it. While if you're cooking it, no, you can't walk away. You got to stir it. The marble thing is in the bottom of the steel. If you have particulates in your steel and you want to keep it from scorching on the bottom, that helps that. But no, you can't boil and walk away while you're cooking. But if you're steeping, you don't need the marbles because you don't have that scorch risk. That's the whole point. That's the whole reason that we steep. Speak of the devil, man, I didn't see that. I hope you stuck around long enough, Derek. Damn it, that was 20 minutes ago. Man, that's excellent. That is really top-notch stuff, man. I can't wait to taste that out of that barrel. Y'all got to save me some of that. Man, I'm telling you, that is good. I didn't even see you post there, man. I just had to have me a little sippy sip. I was getting thirsty. Come on, Trey. Good to see you, brother. Going pretty well, man. I'm behind. That's not good, but we've had some good questions, and that's why I got behind is, you know, explaining things, and that's what we do. As long as it takes, hell, I'll stay here till 11 if I have to. That's a good question. I don't know. Epsom salt. I don't think I'll have to Google it, man. I don't know that Epsom salt's going to add yin and fan. I don't think so. Magnesium sulfate is not typically associated with. Oh my God. AI has gone to Chinese. Oh my God, the yen. Oh my goodness. I have to type out yeast assimilable nitrogen there. It's so stupid. Free minnow nitrogen. I swear no, it doesn't have any. No, it won't help. I was trying to figure out salts. I don't know. Maybe there would be some nitrogen in the salt, but no, it's magnesium sulfate. I know. I wasn't thinking about that, JJ. I wasn't thinking about it being a sacrificial run. I was thinking it was. I did put a little color in my cheeks. That shot, didn't it? Looks like I've been out in the sun now. A few more shots. Yeah. Look like I got sunburnt. Yeah, I wasn't thinking it being about a wash or for cleaning. All right, let me get caught up here. Last batch with Quick Oaks, Crown Royal, huh? All right, question. Hey, folks, is it okay or bad idea to run a stripping run in a blue HDPE barrel, heating elements with stainless copper pipe out from it, going to probably run in reflux steel for neutral later on? No. Yeah, you're going to get, anytime that a lot of people look, when they do a comparison, they look at the chart. There's charts out there that talk about how what alcohol will break down certain plastics and other things. Ethanol is very, very good with HDPE. It works wonders with it. The problem is we don't deal with pure ethanol. We've got a lot of other alcohols in there. We got a lot of esters in there. We got a lot of acetone and ethyl acetates in there. And the problem becomes with the acetone and the acetates. You look at those and how they break down the plastic. It's much, much different than what an ethanol would. If you had pure ethanol, other than worrying about PCBs and microplastics, it would probably be okay. But because we have the ethyl acetates and the acetones and other acetates in there and isopropyls and other things that do break down that HDPE, it's not a good idea. It's fine for low concentration mashes like what we do. To mash in and to ferment in, perfectly fine, because that's a very low percentages. Excuse me, and it's nothing that's going to be dangerous. A lot of people still don't like it for that purpose. They use stainless. Most commercial places will use stainless to ferment on, or wood, and probably both are better. The wood's going to probably tend to get some mold and other issues, but if you keep it clean, it would be perfectly fine because it's not reactive. But yeah, no, I wouldn't recommend that at all. Microplastics become another issue, but yeah, when you look at how acetone and ethyl acetate, look at how that reacts to your HDPE on those schedules. There's I had this argument many times with people, and it comes to storing your heads and your tails in a bucket to run later. That's not a good idea, because that's a concentrated, and of course because it's heads, it's going to contain a lot of those acetates and acetones, and those will break down that plastic. So it's something that I don't recommend. I keep all mine in jars and big glass containers. Any glass container you get, even PET polyethyl toluene, is going to be better than a HDPE or a LDPE, low density or high density polyethylene. PETs would be better, but I still don't recommend it. The polyethyl toluene. That's what you see a lot of your whiskeys sold in, the plastic that the whiskeys are sold in. That's a polyethyl toluene PET plastic. And it's better than a HDPE, LDPE, but I still glass. I'm all about safety, and it's an enjoyable hobby, and I enjoy drinking, and I understand that alcohol's a toxin. But there's no use adding evils to the evil, right? There's no use adding microplastics to your problem. And, if you drink in moderation, it's not a problem. But, a lot of people are looking at these microplastics. These things get in your liver and your kidneys and stuff, and they don't break down. You don't pass them. They just build up. And they're inert. Your bodies can't break them down, right? So it's becoming a bigger and bigger problem, and they're starting to look at it more. Eventually, probably 100 or 2 years from now, there's not going to be anything used with plastic anymore, because they're going to find that it's just not worth it with all the PCBs that they've had in the past, and biphenyls and polybiphenyls and all that from the plastics. Even sodas that they found that were left out in the sun, would start breaking down the plastic in the 2-liter jugs, right? All these 2 liters, these gas stations let it sit out in the sun, and they were finding that it was breaking down too. Just the carbonic acids was breaking it down. So I'm afraid in the future it's probably for plastics, it's the plastics hopefully will be on the outs, and people get back to using glass and clay pots even. But yeah, I'd recommend a clay pot before I would the plastic barrel. It's just not a good idea. But if you wanted to put a barrel band one of those barrel band heaters to keep your fermenter warm, to keep your fermentations, that would be okay. But you're not heating it up to run it, right? You're not trying to run it. You're not getting it up to that temperature, and it's not of that, um, yeah, I wouldn't trust it. But for keeping it warm, a barrel band to help keep it, 70, 80 degrees during cold temps, that's fine. But yeah, I wouldn't boil anything up in it. Yeah, and it's adding boiling water and steeping for 90 minutes is different than boiling in it and cooking it off, right? So it's steeping versus boiling. You're gonna get, it's gonna be different. I definitely wouldn't recommend it at all. But I see what you mean. If you're steeping and adding boiling water, would it be okay just to boil it while it's in there and cook it off? And you know, I just don't think that'd be a good idea because you're doing it for an extended period of time, and you're going to get to when you talk about distillation temperatures, you're going to look at 207 degrees for hours and hours and hours, 6 8 hours, right, to run it, 4 to 6 hours at least, instead of 90 minutes of 190. I just don't think it'd be a good idea. I'm sure there's probably people that have done that and live to tell about it, but really, how long will they live, and what's getting built up in their liver? Microplastics and stuff. I just have a big concern with. And too, a lot of people don't like using the Rubbermaids and the plastic barrels to ferment in and steep in, and I can understand their concern. And if you could get a big huge stainless vessel or glass vessel or glass lined vessel or something like that, I would highly recommend it over plastic. It's just the cost is just kind of cost prohibitive. It's awesome, brother. It is. It's really good. Enjoying the hell out of it, man. That's fantastic. I mean, I don't know that I've tasted anything better. I've tasted some, that are on par with it, but I don't know that I've tasted any better. That's for sure. It's definitely top notch, bro. It's good stuff. I can't wait to try it after a year or two in that barrel. Man, that's good. Really good. And I'll brag on it for the next few weeks because I'm going to sip on that. Definitely good. Let's see if my cheeks can get a little rosier here. Damn good. Top notch right there. I don't know that you can get much better than that going into a barrel. Cuts perfect too. The cuts are done really well. Excellent job, brother. I'm telling you, man, I can't say enough good about it. And for you all that don't know Derek, man, he's an awesome guy. Him and his wife both. I enjoyed spending Saturday night with y'all. I had a good time. Y'all both awesome people. I like it. I don't know that Derek. We've met on several occasions before, but we've never really sat down and partied together like we did Saturday. It was a real good time, man. It's good to meet you and your wife, and again, but more formally or informally, I should say. And man, we got hammered, didn't we? Old Wes had about 20 different liquors on his on his shelf, and I think Derek and I tried about a shot out of every one of them. They're all pretty good though. He had a lot of different unique bottles. I don't know why he doesn't like the Willet. I thought that had a good flavor to it. So I wonder. I do remember some shit swapping plates on me. Damn y'all. Oh, we had a good time, man. We had a good time. Yeah, yeah. I definitely. I wouldn't do it. Yeah, I wouldn't do it. Um, there is concern about the microplastics, and it is a legitimate concern. And if stainless was cheaper, I would be doing everything I do in stainless. But you give me a 55-gallon stainless drum to ferment in, I'm gonna be I'm gonna be running liquor in it. I ain't gonna be fermenting in it. I might do both though. I guess you do both. Hell no. Dry it out, still good, man. You're rehydrating it. Yeah, I like the flavor brown sugar adds to stuff, man. It adds a good depth, a good grunge. I like the flavor, and I like rum. So I don't know. I've heard of Epsom salt. Now, I've heard of using salts and alcohol to help separate it from the water and stuff. But um, there has to be some benefits to it. I mean, it's a sulfate, so I don't know. It's adding sulfur to it, kind of. And potassium's not magnesium, and potassium. I don't know. Magnesium. Can't imagine that being all that great for it either. But Birdwatchers is, I think Birdwatcher recipe came from somebody that really wasn't that knowledgeable, that just kind of, but I will say that the tomato paste does help. It's just doesn't have the antifan that you need. It's not a complete nutrient. It's like instead of a multivitamin, just taking vitamin A, saying, "Oh, I'm doing great for my body. I'm feeling it full of vitamins," but it's not the right vitamin and it's not the right proportions of each. It is a vitamin. So to get a multi, to get the benefits of the multi, you need to branch out. And the tomato paste, while it does give a lot of good micronutrients, and it's excellent use for that. I mean, I wouldn't put it like in a brandy fermentation, but uh, anything that I like, if I was making a vodka for a vodka, yeah, that might be something I'd consider, because it's going to get run through plates, and I'm going to take any flavor that tomato might put in there out, right? But I can't imagine putting it in any my tequila washes or my rum washes, or but with a sugar that I was going to try to turn into some kind of neutral and plate it out, it'd probably be okay for that. You fancy man. It's getting hard for me to read these damn. I don't know what the hell's happened here, because I know last week it ain't me. It ain't like swapping my damn dinner plate. Now I know that these letters are smaller than they usually are, because usually I can read this stuff better. It's usually a little bigger. Maybe I need to change my fonts in here somehow. I need to. Damon's probably messed with shit on here and messed it all up. I have to get in here and tinker with it. Cool. I'm new to distilling and am interested in knowing if I should spend the money on a copper still, or if going with a cheaper still would be better to start with. Happy for any and all ideas. Well, I will say, Dave, it depends on your budget, and your budget, and whether or not you're a stickler for maintenance. And some people are just very, very disciplined and focused and task oriented and get shit done and don't procrastinate. If you're that person, copper and you have money, copper might be perfect for you. If you're a procrastinator, if you tend to let things kind of go a little bit and don't keep up with maintenance, and want to go easy route and don't have as deep of pockets, then maybe stainless would be best for you. We can make it to where you can get the best of both worlds, but really, copper's the best. I'm just going to put that out there. If you can maintain it and run fairly often, then copper is hands down the best metal to use for distilling. That's just, that's all there is to it. But if you're not into cleaning, you're not into maintenance, you're not disciplined in that regard, or if you don't have a lot of extra bucks to spend, then stainless is a great alternative. I'm a stainless guy. When I was younger, I could keep that copper clean, but now it's like I'm old. I got more shit to do, and I'm retired, and I don't even know how I ever got any work done because I got so much shit to do that doesn't even have anything to do with work I used to do. So it's like I don't have the time for that really, and I'm not running as much as I used to. I'm getting old and tired, I guess. But expense probably the keeping it, the maintenance and expense, that's the difference. It's copper's better. It is, but we can add copper mesh now to the vapor path and take a lot of the sulfites and stuff out. That is the major benefit of copper, and one of the reasons that you can taste a flavor difference in a pure copper steel versus a pure stainless steel with no copper at all. You can taste the difference, especially in some of your brandies and anything that has yeast that is stressed a little bit, or anytime you got some hydrogen sulfide or any sulfites that have been created during the fermentation process. You're gonna taste the difference between a copper steel and a pure stainless steel running that distillate, right? You definitely will. I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day. He'd run some liquor, had a little bit of a sulfury smell. I asked him if he used the copper mesh, and he hadn't. But I'm like, sometimes that sulfury, if it's very light, it can estify and change and age and turn into some sweet flavors, believe it or not. Even the butyric acid, the vomit type smells, and some of the odd smells can over time actually end up being a good thing. Not always, not often, but can. And it depends on how much. But if you don't have thousands of dollars to spend on an all copper rig, I would say start with a 10 or 15. Anywhere between 10, 15 gallons is a great starting place, and it's something that you'll be able to use for a little bit before you even think about upgrading, and you may never upgrade from it. It's adequate. 15 to 20 is cool. 30 to 40 is probably as much as you'll ever need. I don't know how many friends you have and how many thirsty friends you got, but if you got a lot of thirsty friends, maybe a 30 or 40 might be best, or running more often. But I will say that if you don't have a lot of money to spend, I probably should scroll forward and see some of your replies, but if you don't have a lot of money, I would highly recommend starting with a Vevert, or a keg. And I'll throw this picture up here. It's the same one I use every week, and I recommend them every week, and for good reason. Bingo. That's a Vevor football steel. About 200, and that's 18 and a half gallons right there. They come in 10, 13, 15, 18, I think. 18 and a half. This is the football steel. Definitely want to get one of these, not only because of its ease of use, because it's modular. It has a ferrule in the top of that lid, and it makes it modular, so you can use it for a lot of different setups. So you can take this football head off. You can put columns on there. You can do a lot of different things with it, and it makes it very versatile and probably one of your better values. Um, about 220 bucks, 250 bucks, depending on if it's on sale or not. You can go to Vever.com, and I think if you enter Philbilly or something, go talk to Philbilly. I think there's a code that you can enter that you can get a discount off of if you order from Vever using his name, or you can just order it from him. But I think if you order it from Vever, there's a name that you can use with Philbilly. Um, that'll get you, 5 or 10% off. Might help pay for your tax, but every bit helps. Um, but yeah, just tell them old Philbilly sent you, and they'll use that code and get a little bit of a discount. But it's a good little steal. Probably for the money, can't beat it. Or you can go with a beer keg. Just a standard beer keg. And on your beer kegs, you can set up something like this. Right? Or instead of that little bit of a column with a deflagrator above that little sight glass, you can see inside there it's got the copper mesh inside that sight glass, which helps a lot. We were talking about just now removing some of those sulfites. That's what we're talking about. So loosely rolled up copper mesh that vapor passes through, all your sulfites will bond to it. So that'll definitely help. But yeah, keg steel, they're very, very durable, cheap. You can get a keg about $45, $55 on Marketplace. You can get up to Philbilly, and you can get some with some. My mind. Anyway, this will have a column that you can attach to a ferrule on the top. That ferrule's 2 inches. And Phil can actually add you 2-inch ferrules, or you can take it to a welder, and they can add you some 2-inch ferrules on the sides towards the bottom of them, and you can use elements in there. The reason being is the way the keg's designed, it either has to be used with gas, or you'd have to use an element because it doesn't sit flat, so you couldn't use it on a stovetop or a burner plate, right? So, but either works really well, and as long as you put that little copper mesh, you probably want to use a little larger roll than what's inside that sight glass. It doesn't need to be rolled tightly, just a loose roll enough to fill that sight glass up all the way would help immensely. But yeah, either one of those is a great cheap way to get started. But if you want to go all copper, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Everything right with it. Dissipates the heat better heating. Removes all the sulfites very well. This probably the best way, but it's expensive. Like a 20-gallon steel is going to be thousands, over $1,000, right? So it's not cheap. So we're talking 18.5-gallon steel for $45 if you're getting a keg, plus maybe $100 to have somebody weld you a ferrule on it. If you want to go element, probably another couple of hundred to, few hundred to do, buy the elements and the PID or the SCD to power it, versus that Vever, which you could run on your stovetop or any, which works fine on a turkey fryer, propane burner, anything like that. It works very versatile. Both of those awesome. But yeah, 20 or 30-gallon copper is hard to beat. It makes good liquor. It's probably the best way to go, but it's expensive. So if you can bear the expense, by all means. But make sure you get a modular steel either way that has the ferrules that you can use the tri-clamps. And it makes it very versatile and modular, where you can make it, even with the beer kegs, you can get a whiskey cap instead of a column that I showed you on there with the deflagrator and the sight glass. Instead, you can get a little whiskey cap to put on there just the same. So both work great, and you can get a whiskey cap. Philbilly makes them. Ozark. Here we go with the names. I'm not going to start naming names because I'll leave somebody out. There's about a dozen of them I want to plug because they're all great people and they all make them. So most anybody in the community, that does metalwork, and copper works is going to be able to make them for you, and you're going to get a pretty, shop around, but yeah, you can get some pretty good little whiskey heads to fit right on that keg steel and make you get it. And worm, copper worm to go with it. Uh, be awesome. And then you get all the copper in the vapor path that you need to help take those sulfites out. So, um, and also, the first question, guys, what kind of liquor do you want to make? Do I want to make vodka? Do I want to make whiskeys? Do I want to make brandies? Do I want to make gins? That also will come, have a little bit of an impact on what kind of setup that you want to get. If you want to do everything, you definitely want to be modular. That way you can adapt your boiler to have a whiskey cap if you want to make whiskeys or brandies. You can have a cap with a steeper in there for gins and things you want to infuse, some botanicals with. Column if you want to make vodka. There's so many different setups that you can add to the top of that ferrule, and for each kind of cater to each different type of distillate. So definitely want to get something modular regardless of what you choose. And ask more questions. If I didn't answer all your questions, be sure to follow up with, okay, I understand that, but this, keep asking. That's what we're here for. This is all Q&A. We'll sit and bullshit all night until we get a question, and we'll deal with it. So, but that's our main reason for being here, is answering your all's questions, and that's keep them up, keep coming with them. How do you come back from failure? You learn from your mistakes. And if I didn't come back from failures, I would not be where I'm sitting today, because I've had every failure there is to make. I've learned from every one of them, and that's how I remember most of what I know is learning why did this, how, and what caused this to happen. How did this happen? I did everything the same way as last time. Why is it different this time? Because from the very get-go, I was young. I scorched, probably the first few runs that I did, 3 or 4 runs at least. And, and I learned, how to cook a little better, and learned how to steep. And, but definitely learn from your mistakes. And that's why, Oshin, that's why starting simple and not starting with high-end mash. A lot of people want to go from crawling to running, and before they really get their feet underneath them, you know what I'm saying, like a baby. So one thing is maybe slow down, take the steps, and get some experience and learn from some mistakes. It will save you money. But you're still going to learn. It's still good. It's still good experience. But like dealing with fruits and brandies, fruit's very expensive. And for somebody that's, just started distilling a month or two ago, I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about anybody. You've been at it a while now, but for somebody that's just starting out, to try to immediately jump into a complex brandy like a Plum Slivovich, I would probably say no. You're gonna risk losing a pretty good amount of money spent on fruit, expensive fruit. Fruits aren't cheap. Unless you're getting this stuff for free, these mashes cost money. That's why, don't try with a blue agave. Your first, second, or third fermentation. I'm going to make tequila. It's just expensive, man. You don't want to screw up a $200 mash bill. Learn with corn. Corn is cheap. 50 pounds for $7. You can cut your teeth on it. And that's what everybody should be doing. Start with sugar. I tend to say, start with corn because corn is cheaper than sugar. Once you look at the equivalents that you get out of it, corn is the cheapest damn thing you can experiment with. So, and it gives you better flavor than just a pure sugar. So, I always try to get people to use maybe corn and sugar. Try a little bit of both. But when you do expensive mashes like that, it hurts, right? It's like, damn, I had $200 invested in that. I can't believe I spent all that money on that blue agave and I fucked it up, and it's trashed. Or I can't believe I spent all that money on that honey and it's just ruined. Or I spent all that money on that people ask about, some of the most expensive dragon fruit, shine, and all these expensive fruits and exotic fruits and stuff. And it's like, you're just getting started. Why would you, don't set yourself up for failure. It's if you're experimenting and learning like you are, absolutely, because you're going to learn from each mistake and you're going to learn why. And that's experimentation. That's not making mistakes. That's experimentation. That's trial and error. So it's not failure. It's trial and error on your part. But, for a beginner, just to start out with something complex, you're setting yourself up for failure. But yeah. And, research and knowledge does not equate to a good tasting jar. You can know everything, and basically, if you miss on a few fundamental things, especially when it comes to distillation, you can mess it all up, and you can learn the hard way. And that's a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes over the years. A lot of them. About every one there is to make, and that's how I learned from them. And you just got to roll with the punches, brother. Yeah, you can use it. And I think conditioning the water, I think that's like somebody else mentioned, salts. There's a lot of salt purifications, so, too. And it helps soften the water. All right, let me check it out. Hold on just a second, brother. All right, let me go here. All righty. All right, let me go back. All right, pull up the DIY page. I just posted that still I was telling you about last week. Would love to hear your thoughts on it. So this is in DIY Shine and Steel Building, okay? Let me separate. Let me sort by new posts. Okay, somebody posted their Argentino, David Blaze, orange flint, Argentina orange corn. Oh, I bet that's good. I definitely want to try some. Okay. Now, what you have there, that's just a basic pot still. And you see the ferrule in the side of it. That is got an electrical element going into it. That's an onion head on the top. Let me start it over again at the very bottom. Okay, so that's basically just a stainless steel boiler. Okay, Tony? Stainless steel boiler. And in the side of it, you can see where it, and that looks like a 120. That's not even a 220 or 240 element going into the side. So they make stainless steel elements. It's like a heating element that goes into a water heater. And you can do the same into a steel. But you got to make sure you don't get solids in there or it's going to scorch them. But they make stainless steel elements. And that's got a false bottom in it. So there could be a plate there. You can see that ring right above that element and above the little drain nozzle there. They also put their electric right underneath where that drain nozzle is. Probably not the best location for that. If it drips, it's going to drip right on your electronics, right? So probably not a good idea to put that there. And which reminds me, damn it, Wes, I forgot my plastic box when I left your house to set my SCR in. Can't believe I did that, man. I'll have to pick it up next time I'm up here, man. Damn it, man. Just seeing that made me think about it, man. I didn't think about it until just now. But yeah, it could drip on that. Probably not the best location for it. But anyway, that's just basically a stainless steel boiler. You could use a Vever. That Vever pot I just showed you is the same thing. Now, Appalachia Plateau is pretty renowned for making the copper tops like that. There's other people, Wayne, a lot of, basically most any of the other workers can also do it. Make you a copper top to fit on top of that. But basically that's the same thing as the football steel, except it's got a copper top instead of a stainless one. We know that you can put the mesh in that little sight glass that you see right above that. So that's a ferrule in the top of the lid, just like we have, right, well, let me see, I can probably do this. Hold on just a second here. Let me pause this. Let me do this so everybody can see. Let's see, which one is it? This one. Okay. All right, so everybody can see what I'm seeing now. This is the pot. So this is basically a drainage pot. You can see the drain there in the bottom, and you can see right underneath that drain the box, the electronic box. Not a good place for that. But that's basically a stainless pot, just like this football steel that I'm showing you, the Vever football steel. And you can have somebody weld you an element or weld you a ferrule inside in the side of the pot there, so you can put an element inside of it, and that's a stainless element. There's a lot of different companies that'll make them. I recommend highly using a stainless element instead of a regular water heater element. Definitely gonna be less issues there with the mineralization and scorching potential. But that copper top, I do know that Appalachian Plateau makes those. Roy and Sean make those, and there's other people that make them. Commercially, you can get it for certain, like if you have a Digiboil, I think they make them to fit it like a Digiboil or something like that, or a T500. Those are elements. Those are steels that have a small heating plate element built into the bottom of them. But on top of it, you can see it's got a ferrule on the top, just like that Vever football steel does. So the copper top, as you see in their sight glass there, they don't have the copper mesh, but you could put that copper mesh right inside that element there. 80.1 degrees centigrade, that is a vapor temperature. That's not the actual temperature of the distillate in the bottom. And 80.1 let's see how accurate it is. 176. So yeah, that's 80.1. So that's definitely a vapor temp. Because for it to be boiling like that and going, it definitely have to be in the 190s, unless that was a high proof with tails in it that they're running. That could be the case as well. So that and that onion head gives you some passive reflux, and you can see that vapor's even cooler. So it's definitely cooling from the pot, which is probably in the 190s, to 180 in there, to 170 some, up on the onion head. So you can see as the vapor moves up, it cools off, and that's what causes a lot of the water to condense. Going into a short sight glass, that's interesting. A little short sawed-off shot glass or sight glass there. I guess it gives you a visual on either your keeping anything from puking over there at the top. You can see it's getting even cooler now at the very top. Man, they got enough thermometers on here. Lord, you don't have that many in an emergency room on a deathbed patient, man. That's crazy. It's just way too much, too many thermometers to look at. You don't really care about. But so it's going into a reflux in the top, and your distillate's basically coming out of the side. So it's an interesting setup. A little bit of different deflagmator, but coming into the side, off the side there, you're getting a different distillate than what's going to come off the top of it. And you get some reflux off that side, and I guess that might be getting retorted back into it. And then you got your deflagmator in the top with a nice little coil coming down. It's a nice setup. Very nice setup. Oh. Here, I think what's happening is what you see dripping off this coil is going to be higher proof, and that's the way the Boca Cob works. It's catching all this up here, this higher volatile, which is more the alcohol, and a lot of your lowers are coming off here. So, and it may be dripping it and directing it into a small collection thing inside this sight glass here. So it's kind of like a larger version of a Boca Cob, which is going to be a little faster drip than a Boca Cob, and maybe, tag on it, a little lower proof. Yeah, thanks for sharing, man. That's cool. Yeah, it's a cool little setup. Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, it's a nice setup. And it's going to produce higher proof. You know, I wouldn't run that for like a whiskey or a brandy, but for like vodkas or something, if you don't have room for a big, huge, tall column, that's going to put off some pretty high proof. I guarantee you that's putting off 185, 190 proof. It's the way it's set up. If it's set up to where that coil in the top is dripping into a small collection plate that's taking it out, that's basically the way the Boca Cob's set up inside the Boca Cob. So, and that's definitely what I think that is. So that's putting out some very high proof. Thanks for sharing, man. I like the setup. Very interesting, very good setup. But again, it's for making vodka. That's awesome. I agree. Definitely the way to go. Ah, yeah, getting late. I think most people do that. I think a lot of people, even not necessarily copper. I think a lot of people start with a smaller steel, thinking, "Oh, I'll work my way up," and there's nothing wrong with that because eventually that 5 gallon pot will become a thumper, right? When you get a 20 gallon rig, it'll 15, 20 gallon rig. That pot you started out with will get converted into a thumper. So, or it's just another pot to boil in or whatever. So it's not wasted, but I think a lot of people do. They'll buy the smaller one, and I don't know how many times I've seen it over the years. I wish I'd just started out with a 10 or 15. And that's why I recommend it. It's not the cheapest, it's not the easiest, but I will say once you learn how to make cuts on a 5 gallon steel, you'll definitely be a lot better, when you get a bigger steel, because it'll be like, oh my God, the separation of these cuts is, because there's so much more volume and it's so much easier to do. So that's why I always recommend at least minimum of 10 plus. Where is Shadow, man? Another sippy sip of Derek's here. I would like to. I'm gonna probably put this on some staves. This and Joe's. Man, that's so good. That's so good. That is good stuff. Almost as good as mine. I was kidding. That's really good, man. Yeah, it's the way to go. It's awesome. Good little pot, and the benefit over cake steel. I like the cake steel. I used the cake steel for many, 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 many years, longer than I wanted to. And if I had a easier way to clean it out, I'd probably still been using it. But it was just I never had a bigger ferrule welded into the top, so having to clean it, was hard. But nowadays you can take that steel, you can take that 2 inch ferrule out, put a 4 or 6 inch on there, and you can reach your arm down in there. If you got a small arm, I guess you can get in a 4. I have to have a 6, but you can clean it out, scrub it, and easy to wash with the garden hose. I used to have to go to the car wash. I didn't have a pressure washer, and just wash it out that way. But it's heavy duty, and it looks like a beer keg, right? So if somebody comes in, a cop comes in and sees that sitting in the corner, it's a beer keg. They don't immediately think, oh, there's a moonshine still converted out of a beer keg. They just see a beer keg sitting there. Most people would. So, it doesn't look like a big, yeah. Hey, what's going on, Tex? Good to see you, brother. I'm doing good, man. Good to see you on here. I ain't seen you in a while, brother. Hope everything's doing well, man. Hope you're doing well. I am too, man. It was a good time. It was definitely a good time. Hell yeah. And that brown sugar's not expensive, man. Awesome. That's awesome, bro. Yeah, can't go wrong, man. Can't go wrong, man. And like I say, if I'd have started out with the one with that ferrules welded on it and elements in the side for heating and all that, shit, I'd still be using it. But I got rid of it a long time ago, and then had big steels for a while, and then just wanted something to hobby with again, because I wasn't making it to, wasn't making large volumes, so I just got another hobby steel, and That little Vever fit the bill. I've since bought keg stills, so I got two keg stills, 18.5 gallon Vever and two 80 gallons. So yeah, those don't see much use anymore. Yep. Yeah, that's great to ferment in that stainless, man. Yeah, yeah, they will, man. Keg will last you a lifetime, brother. They're heavy duty. You can bang them up, throw them in the back of the truck, take them. Yeah, they're definitely heavy duty. You don't have to pressure cook your yeast. Just boiling water will kill them. Just anything, will denature them and kill them. Um, but I'll give you even one better. You don't have to kill your yeast. You've got plenty of dead yeast in the bottom of each fermentation that you do. The yeast bed in the bottom with all the flocculants, you can strain that. So get you one of these screen strainers and just pour it through that and strain out all the large stuff. Your yeast ain't large, right? So all the yeast and dead yeast won't get caught in that strainer. That's just basically organic matter material that can mold and decay, whatever. So you can get those out first, right? And then you can take some distilled water and add to it and kind of dilute any alcohol that's left in there from your mash and kind of, clean it and shake it up real good and let it settle and then rack off that clear water once it settles out into another yeast bed. And, you can shake it up a few times if you want to try to get everything out of it and add a little more water and do it again. And then once you do that, the rack the water off, what liquid and everything that's left there, you can keep, jar it up. And that will have live and dead yeast in it, right? And so you won't have to buy any more yeast. So, like if you did a mash with some expensive Quebec yeast, um, you can save that and reuse it indefinitely, and you should. As expensive as it is. We've been talking a lot recently, and Wayne and Woody and Amanda had a show on yeast. It was awesome. If you haven't seen it, definitely want to catch that show. It's on the Militia Network. Great show, very knowledgeable. But talking about propagating your yeast, when you get expensive yeast like that, and it's top-notch yeast, the Quebec yeast is really, really good. I've never heard anyone say I don't like it. Right? So it must be damn good. Um, but it's expensive, very expensive, and it's cost prohibitive if it were a one-time use thing for a lot of people. But you can save that yeast and you can culture it and you can reuse it. And inside that yeast bed in the bottom, I'm talking about that muck in the bottom, the flocculation, whatever you want to call it. Um, you can rinse it, clean it, sieve it out. Most all screens aren't going to catch yeast. They're microorganisms. They're going to be in the slurry that goes on through. But you'll take out all the cracked corn and all, most of all that stuff. Some of the smaller fines will get through, and that's fine too. It'll just be food for them. And you can keep it alive. Every once in a while you can sprinkle a little sugar in there to help feed them and keep them alive. And just don't put that lid on there real tight, right? And blow the lid off, or cause some problems that way. But and you can propagate your yeast that way. And what's in it will be nutrients, which will be dead yeast, and live yeast. And you can dump it into your next fermentation. And you don't need it all. You just use a portion of it, dump it into your next fermentation, get it oxygenated right when it's time to pitch the yeast. Just put that in there, and you'll be adding your nutrients and your yeast at the same time. And just keep doing it, right? So every time, just keep saving it and reusing it. And especially the expensive good yeast that you if you get something that you like, and a lot of your best yeast are expensive. Now we did talk about Alan and I, and we discussed the thoughts about reusing yellow label angel yeast like that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the enzymatics will be able to be reused over and over and over again. I'm not sure if the benefits from the enzymes that are inherent in those will carry forward from like a sour mashing method or carrying it over like I was talking about method. So I'm not sure, but most of your standard yeast will. I am going to experiment with that though and find out how well if it continues to convert. And maybe this fall I'll have a little more knowledge on that because I'm going to experiment with that this summer for sure. Did I misread something? I know I keep having to lean up and squint. But yeah, it's definitely smaller. Everything's smaller. I don't know. I'm going to have to. Maybe I can hit control. Yes, that's what I do. If you hold down control and scroll. Yeah. I wish I'd done that from the start. Daggone it. Remind me to do that next time. I guess I've scrolled it back somehow. I've held control and scroll and made it small. Daggone. Why didn't I think about that earlier, man? Here I've been squinting all damn day. Now it's big for an old man to see. Oh, the screen. That's gonna be tough for anybody on a phone. But if you're on a PC, it's as big as a day. So what's going on, Mr. Dan Gray? How you doing, brother? Good to see you. And some people may never go to copper, because 18 that's almost 20 gallon. 20-gallon copper steel costs you about 1,500 a couple grand, man. It ain't cheap. Yeah. Yeah, you can just boil up water. Replaced your stainless shotgun with the copper shotgun. Good deal. That's definitely where you want your copper, though, in the vapor path. That's the way to go, bro. I bet you're excited, man. Oh hell yeah! It's definitely a heavier gauge than the Bever. That's the Bever steel is not a heavy duty thick. It's a pot. It's just like your stock pot. Same material as your stock pots that you would buy to cook in, right? So it's not a big heavy duty steel, thick steel like you're going to get with a keg for sure. Yeah, yeah, and they make a rashig ring. You can use what's called a rashig ring, which is basically just half-inch copper chopped into teeny pieces, or whatever size copper for that matter. Or you just take elbows, just clean them up real good, right? You just throw in unions and elbows in there, and just make you know, just literally throw T's, unions, elbows in there, and just fill up a little the void, like in your football steel. Just but it's expensive. But yeah, you could do it that way as well. Just throw a bunch of fittings in there. Just put a lot of copper in the vapor path. Work. Or you could take half-inch copper tube and just chop little teeny quarter-inch sections off of it. Kind of maybe run it through a little grinder or something. Take any sharp edges off of it or burrs off of it. But yeah, there's lots of different ways to add it. But the mesh that we're talking about, the copper mesh, make sure you get pure copper. But it's pretty cheap. It's not too expensive. And it's reusable. You can get quite a few uses out of it before you pitch it or recycle it. Yeah, that's one of the reasons on the screen that we post these on the screen is so you can see YouTube and Facebook. Generally, if you're on YouTube in the chat, that's all you'll see is YouTube chat. If you're on Facebook, all you'll see is the Facebook chat. But StreamYards has made it to where on the screen it will show both, and that's why we put it on the screen there so everybody can see. Because they'll be like, "What are you talking? Who are you talking to, man? What question you answering? I don't see any questions." And it's like, "Oh, that was from YouTube, or that was from a different YouTube video or channel." So that's why we do that. That's why a lot of times the number of people that you see and the viewers you see in the little eyeball thing or whatever, that's just on the actual page that you're on. So it'll vary depending on where you're viewing it from. But that's why we put it on there. It's fine if you got a PC, but if you, yeah, I'm always behind. And every once in a while I'll read that screen, and I'll catch it. I wish I try to catch everybody as they come in and say, hey, but it's hard for me to read both, especially when it's small. Now it's bigger, I can do a little better, but um, but yeah, it might be regional too. So that's just weird, but again, read that screen thing. That screen's not regional. That screen puts everything up there. So that's another benefit. I am talking to StreamYards and trying to get them to enlarge that. I may have to just try to hack into their program and do it myself if they don't, man, and make that a larger digital container there. Here at StreamYards, I'm gonna hack your shit if you don't fix it. So you can see the Moonshine Militia feed, but not Philly. So it depends on exactly. That's what I was saying. So it depends on which one you're watching from. So, and the same with Facebook. So certain pages on Facebook, if you're watching, it'll say like 2 viewers, and it's like there's only 2 people watching this. No, there's 2 people watching it from the same page that you're watching it. So, some pages on YouTube may say 15, some may say 28, and some may, on Facebook it'll say 6, 12, 20, and it just shows how many people are viewing it from the same source, I guess, or page that you're viewing it from. It's weird how it does that, but yeah. And regionally, they even on the militia page, it may be broken down regionally. That's even stranger. So yeah, it's weird. It is. It is. Data yeast is a good one. Or just regular old bread yeast. Fleischmann's works great too. Yeah, see, he sees 8 in there, and that's in the Moonshine Militia YouTube. And they think, oh, there's only 8 people watching this. No, there's a lot more than 8. But so you only see the number of people watching it from the actual, like I post a bunch of different Facebook pages. So if you're watching from that page and it says 2 or 6, that's how many people are watching it from also that same page with you. So somehow it breaks it all down from the source that not well from the source that you're viewing it from and not from the actual totals. It doesn't give me a running number of the totals that are watching it completely, but I will say on an average, our shows get between 700 and 1,000, 1,100 views. Not live. We only get like 100, maybe 120, and some of it's just people viewing it for a few minutes and this isn't for me, or and it's not necessarily people watching the whole show the whole time. It's just total of viewers. but it also shows how many people come back and watch it again. So a lot of people be like, "Oh, this is pretty cool, man. I wish I had time to watch it all. I'll have to catch this later." And it shows them coming back, not individually, but it shows viewers and then views, right? So you get like, let's just hypothetically 800 viewers and 1,200 views. That means 400 people came back and watched it again, right? So that's what viewers and views tells me, that there's this many viewers, but we had 400 more views than viewers. So those were people that came back and watched more later at their convenience. And it'll show me how many people watched it initially tonight, and it'll be anywhere from 100 or so, you know. That's why I say less than 10%, because a lot of times we have 1,100 people, and we have 80 to 100 viewers a night. And you know, that's cool. You know, I'm the same way. You know, I spend so much time doing this twice a week that I miss a lot of other people's lives, like Lisa's and a bunch of others, and I'll just pick them up later in the week when I can. You know, as I'm busy doing something, or you know, watching, you know, something, a video or something. I'll listen to, you know, Lisa's and other shows, and Wayne's and Amanda's, you know, as I can, you know, if I can't watch them live. But and that's the way most people are. We probably 90, close to 90+% watch this at their convenience later, and especially on a Saturday night. You know, everybody's got a lot of things better to do than to sit and watch this on a Saturday night if they're young and swarping. But you know, so fogies have to get together and drink on here and have us a good time too, you know. But I enjoy getting on here every weekend and having a good time and hanging with y'all. It's definitely a good time. So if you're not catching us on Saturday, you're missing out, man. It's a lot of fun. So if you don't have anything to do, or it's cold and wet and you're not going to get out, and you know, you're tired of getting DUIs, you can kind of hang out with us, man. Well, if all you lost was a sugar wash, that ain't bad. Wait till you got $60 and $80 wines that don't turn out the way you want them, you know, and you got all that money invested in the fruit just to turn it into a brandy that you can't even hardly taste the fruit from. That's a tough pill to swallow right there. But as you get better, you know, those you don't mess up once you learn. You know, you'll learn from mistakes. But yeah, I guess it'd be better, you know, if everybody watched from the same exact spot. But we put it out there in different places, so you know, different people be able to see it. Your Facebook page has my granddaughter tugging my beard. Yeah, researching book smarts is definitely gives you a good foundation, right? So it definitely gives you a leg up, but you got to put that to application and put that to use, and that's when you start doing the trial and error. And there will be errors in trial and error. That's why it's called trial and error, and that's the whole basis of experimentation and learning. Um, so that's part of the scientific process. Without failures, there would be no data to be gained from it, right? You gotta know why you shouldn't do things as much as you know why you should. Sometimes. Yeah, it's definitely to learn going by the cheapest first. You don't want to learn. You don't want to cut your teeth on 150 $200 mashes. You don't want to spend all that money on agave and it be your first run. Yeah, it just don't. That's why I crack corn, or cheap yellow dent corn. It You can make some of the best liquor from it. And add a couple of grains, add some wheat, and add some barley, and you can have some awesome drink, like Derek's got right there. Just put some time and effort and love into it, man, and you crank out some good stuff. What's going on, Mr. Hanley? Good to see you, Frank. How y'all doing this evening? Good to see you, brother. Right now, also, that old stainless shotgun that you had, you can use that for a big deflagmator now. You can convert that to your big deflagmator. It does, it does, but it makes it a lot cheaper and more enjoyable, and it's ecological, right? Instead of it going to waste, it can waste you. That's a good way to put it. Because I was wasted this weekend, man. I think I got drunk twice Saturday. I got drunk, slowed down a little bit, sobered up some, and then got drunk again. We had a good time. Yeah, that stainless cone below the deflagmator or deflamator. Yeah, that's just a condensation coil that's used to focus a drip. And if it's like the Boca Cob, it has that built into the column, just like the Boca Cob above, where it captures that drip. That's basically a really a enlarged Boca Cob setup, and I guarantee you that's putting out 180, 90 proof easy. Yeah, it was Celsius. What, the video I shared, was it noisy? I'm sorry. Hey, Miss Tammy, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. Was that my microphone? What was the noise? What was it? Was it me or when I was playing that live video? I mean, this microphone's pretty. It is a condenser mic, so you have to be pretty close. It does noise cancel, so I think as you move away from it, it becomes much less effective. It's not like my microphone that's in my camera, but when I speak directly into it, I don't know. Somebody said it sounded tinny. Does my mic sound tinny to y'all? Like I'm talking through a can or something? You can see text. I know, man. That yawn, it snuck up on me, man. I think somebody else yawned and I sensed it. Yeah, where you at, Shadow? We missed you tonight. I'm going to check on him. Yeah, man, I understand, brother. Gotta take care of family first, that's for sure. God and family come first, bro. Doing good, Dan. I'm way behind, about 22 minutes. I was about to get caught up, damn it, and I got talking about something and got behind again. You're right. I just mentioned that. Oh yeah. Now a lot of these milk cans will be a little heavier duty than I've ever, and a lot of these small commercial units that are stainless will be a lot thicker, a lot heavier gauged stainless. But with heavy comes price, right? So they're not $200. They're 800 and they're not 4 times thicker. So but you get what you pay for. You can't see half the chatters on my screen is the only place you'll be able to see them, and there's nothing we can do about that. I hate it, but that's just the way. That's why they put this chat on the screen for me. I complained about this forever, and they finally did, and they put the chat that I see. I see all the chat combined. That's what's on the screen here, and Tammy calling for shots. Hell yeah, I like it. All right, Tammy. This one's for you. That's awesome. Cheers. Little Derek shot. Man, that is so good. Thank you very much, Derek. That's awesome, brother. Very, very good. Man, that's really good flavor. I like it. I wish everybody could taste this. This is what you want your grain liquor to taste like. Damn good. Good after flavor too. Sits on your tongue. Really good cuts too. Perfect cuts. Did an excellent job. And that's going to age so well in that barrel, I can't wait to taste it. "150 days to retirement." Yeah, you'll get there soon enough, brother. I'm there. I retired this year. And figuring out how I don't have any work to do. So I'm figuring out how in the hell I ever got any work done, because it's like my day's full of shit that I need to do and have to do. And it's like, how'd I ever get anything done in the past and work? It's like, seems like everything now is all I can do to do it, much less find time to work. And somebody called me in and wanted me to do some work the other day, and I was like, I could have taken it, but I'm like, I'm just tired. I don't want to anymore. I've done it. I'm burnt out. But yeah, I'm happy for you, brother. But then you got to come up with a hobby, and we know what the best hobby is. So that's where I'm at. Oh, there's a genetic. I think there's a lot of cats down in the Keys, around Key West. A lot of multi-toed cats. Taters turning out pretty good on the third run. Awesome, man. I'm glad to hear that, Frank. Yeah, those taters make some pretty good shine. Use that amylase on them and get the starches out of them. And that way you're not just making potato flavored sugar shine, But yeah, them taters make good shine, especially had some sweet potatoes in it. Maybe make some. Try that out. Got some unique flavors. The sweet potatoes are good too. Yeah, man, it sure would, brother. And it wouldn't. You could probably get by with running, maybe less cold water and have it more of a gradual, reflux than a rapid reflux with them short ones. Be interesting to see the difference. Yeah, brother. Glad you're here, man. We're all learning together. And we can learn from your mistakes, So tell us, bring them all in. We can talk about it and our successes. I'm considering a small steel for personal use. Should I do stainless or copper? What's the pros and cons? I'll make it quick. Stainless is much less expensive, much cheaper to buy and maintain, easier to clean, and that's where its benefits end. Copper is a lot more expensive, It is harder to keep clean. It requires more maintenance, but it has a lot more even heating. And that's pretty much the pros and cons of that. So if you have deep pockets and you don't mind keeping something clean and spending a lot of time on maintenance, copper's your guy. Copper's the way to go. If you don't have deep pockets and you don't like spending a lot of time cleaning, you can go with stainless with the copper mesh that we talk about and kind of get the best of both worlds without, busting your buck. But copper is better, but it does require a little bit more maintenance. Just like them beautiful women. You out here, brother? Yeah, it's getting about that time. Yeah, it's 11 o'clock. And I'm caught up. Wow, that's amazing how that happens, man. I get behind, and then about 11 o'clock every time I start getting caught up right there at the end. But yeah, I would, back to Josh, yeah, like Clint said, I wouldn't get anything less than a 10. 10 or 15 is a great starter size. And it's a good intermediate size, so you're not starting out and then immediately wanting to upgrade. You can kind of cut your teeth on it and spend a little time with it before you move on up, right? And so 10 or 15, like the Vever steel that we're showing here, the little football Vever. I wouldn't go with the 3-pot. I'd go with this football. It's modular. And we talked about it a little bit earlier before you tuned in, I guess, Josh. So if we're getting ready to end the show, but if you want to at the end, you can kind of watch the show over. We go over a lot of good information. And tonight we did a lot of information that will be beneficial, and kind of listen to it. And some of the old podcasts that we do, we answer a lot of the same questions often, and we love to. I'll answer that same question you ask 10 times a night if I have to. And I'll show pictures and talk about it. But yeah, definitely, with one of these, this is called a Vever football steel, comes in 10, 13, 15, 18, I think, maybe 13, 18, maybe not a 15, but 18 and a half. I think they rate them by liters, but whatever. But yeah, this is an excellent little setup. It's good to go as is. So you don't have to modify it. If you buy their 3-pot steels, they're okay. Got boilers and good things and everything, but you're going to have to upgrade your plumbing, and you're going to have to upgrade your condensers on them, and it's going to be some work. Buying this one, you don't have to have any work. You can run this as is and get some pretty good liquor, right? So it'd be a good way to start. We also a keg steel, running something like this, a beer keg, running into a small column, works really well as well. You get great results for that. From that, put that on a put that on a turkey fryer or some kind of gas heat, and you can run fine. You can get a ferrule welded into the side of it and go electric. You can do the same with the Vever. Um, but either one's a great starter steel for a low investment, initial investment. Kegs generally about $40, $55, and then if you have stuff welded onto them, it gets to 100, 150 pretty quick, right? Having that stuff welded, welders aren't cheap. So if you know how to weld, definitely uh, go with a keg and start welding on your fittings, and you'll be good to go. But either one of those are a great start, or a good copper steel. We got a lot of people in the community. I highly recommend joining the Moonshine Militia or DIY Shine and Steel Building, and come in there and ask questions. There's a dozen or so builders that we recommend that are reputable, that won't screw you over. And if they did, they wouldn't be in our community anymore, because we've had several that have gotten behind and have reneged on coming through, and they've been sent packing. We're not going to allow that. So we watch out for our members. And if you want to join and you're looking to buy steel and you're looking for somebody reputable, it would benefit you big time to join. And tell them you saw me. Tell them Mo Santa sent you. I'm an admin in there, so yeah, we'll get you in, and you can ask your questions in there. And all the steel builders, you can kind of, they'll each address you if you ask the question, who makes good steel? I'm looking to buy steel. Most of the builders and people in there will recommend who they like or who they bought steels from, and you can send them a message. How much are your 20s? And kind of shop around a little bit, and find out who you're comfortable with. Find out who can get you a steel soonest, right? Maybe you can save a little money and wait a little longer, or pay a little more, get it right now. It just depends on what you got and what you want. So yeah. But definitely join the Moonshine Militia or the DIY Shine and Steel Building, and we'll definitely steer you towards some reputable builders, and they'll each talk about what they've got, and private message it, what the cost and everything is. Most of them won't put it out there for everybody to see. They're competitive. That's what we're here for, brother. We're here every Tuesday and Saturday night at 8 Eastern. We're getting ready to wrap it up now, but yeah, join us any Tuesday and Saturday. Bring your questions, any question you got. There's no stupid questions. Everybody has the same ones. And watch some of our old, at the same place you're picking this up, you can watch, probably on Fieldbillies, you can catch some of our old podcasts and stuff, and we go over a lot of stuff. We answer a lot of the same questions every night, so a lot of the questions you have will be addressed, and I try to, Clint will give them the short, text answer, and I'll kind of follow up with most all the questions with a long-winded explanatory, message, and go into a little bit more depth and detail. Clint's on a cell phone trying to answer these, and I'm long-winded, so we kind of work together, so you can get the quick answer from Clint, and then the long-winded answer from me, and hopefully between the two of them we can kind of make some sense, and you can get something from it. Yeah, I know you're excited, brother. Inbred, is that? I was trying to think, you talking about me or Clint, and I realized you talking about the cat, and I'm like, well, who the hell's JJ talking about inbred here? Oh, then I realized when I saw the Hemingway comment, I was like, okay, he's talking about the cat. That's funny as shit. Oh, Lord. Yep, yep, that's funny. It's all well. It's all the same, but yeah, it'd be nice if everybody went to the same spot to watch it. But if you're not on Phil Billy's page, go to Phil Billy's. I that's where most people watch it from on YouTube. I mean, he's got like what 500, 700,000 followers, so we get a lot more viewers on that than we do on the militia side. I'm not discouraging people from using the militia YouTube page, but if you want to see all the chat, it might benefit y'all. Just make sure you go do both, and spend some time at both. But yeah, if you're going to watch this, probably if you want to see more of the chat and you don't want to try to read the screen, until we can get StreamYards to make this bigger or hack their ass, which I might have to delve into their program and look and see what I can do. But or I might just have to call them and say, look, this is great, and we appreciate you answering this, but I know that it won't take 15 minutes of coding to make this screen sizable. So do it, right? That would help. And there's so many people that use StreamYards for educational purposes, and to have the discussion on one side and something else, like instead of my face having, pictures like this that are, like the teacher would normally have from a heads up display, yeah, it would be invaluable. So we're definitely going to try to get them to do that. Once they do that, then you'll be able to see all the chat combined. I don't know if there's a way that they can combine the chat on their end and make it to where everybody can see what I see. That'd be nice. Yeah, cats have a lot of character, man. They're funny. All right, everybody, we're going to try to wrap it up. I'm going to scroll through here and see if make sure I'm not missing anything. Any new people questions? Okay, so is a double thumper good for infusing flavor? It is if it's like a miniature thumper, like we talked about. Oh no, I'm sorry, it wasn't you. It was somebody else. Double thumpers, no. Reason being, thumpers are generally sized 25 to 30% of the still size. To try to infuse with that really takes a lot of infusion flavors, and infusion flavors are generally concentrated and a little bit more expensive. So, or a few fruit puree with sweetened. So it gets pretty expensive to infuse flavors. And when you put them in a 25 to 30% same size as the keg or the still, basically a thumper is designed to rerun tails and to increase proof. So A, you're increasing proof, and B, you're increasing production by rerunning your tails. That was generally what us old timers did with a thumper. Fast forward 30 years, now everybody's talking about infusions, and they're putting infusion ports on top of the thumpers and infusing flavors in there and using it for flavor infusion, as well as doubling, which it doesn't double, but and running tails. Then it becomes a little different. The problem is a thumper, the way a thumper works, it removes water. You're getting condensation, right? So you're getting that second distillation, but technically you're just removing water. And when you remove water from a water ethanol mix, whatever, other alcohols, when you remove water, you're increasing proof. So that's basically what your thumper's doing. It's great at doing that, but it's not so great at infusing flavor. And for those that don't want to stick around and listen to this answer again, I understand. And for those of you that don't, hey, There's Shadow. Where the hell you been all night, man? We've been worried about you. I was getting ready to message you on Facebook. We've been concerned. We're like, where in the hell's Shadow tonight, man? We was hoping he's all right, brother. But anyway, best for the infusion pots, and it's great to have multiples, like you're talking about double. 2 or 3 are great, but they're sized down, right? They're, instead of, like if you've got a 20-gallon still and you've got a 5 or 8-gallon thumper, imagine 3 1-gallon mini thumpers with drains in the bottom and an infusion port in the top on my bypass setup. So basically, you can infuse new flavor, and after you run a quart through all these 3 infusion chambers, you can drain it. The first one, add another quart or half a quart. You don't want to add the whole thing, but another quart in a gallon, right? Fourth. So you're using a quart of flavoring in that 1 gallon instead of trying to fill an 8-gallon with 2 gallons of an infusion. So you're using a quart instead of 2 gallons at a time, and it's not going to get watered down. It gets watered down as quickly, but you can dump it and recharge it really quickly, right, Zach? So that's the big benefit of being like mini thumpers. So they're like, imagine an infusion chamber like a mini thumper, copper or stainless, whatever you can get, but an infusion port at the top where you can dump in new flavor after you drain the flavor out of the bottom. Dump in new flavor, and you can do that for all 3. So you can do this quart, dump this one, next quart, dump this one, next quart, dump and reinfuse this one. And having that third pot and second and third pot really helps a lot because it helps concentrate those flavors. So yes, having like a 3 jar or a 3 pot. I like to use pots instead of jars. I'm definitely big on using pots. What's going on, Alfredo? Good to see you, brother. I ain't talked to you in a while, man. My buddy Alfredo. How things going, man? Good to see you, brother. Hope you and Wendy are doing well. Yeah, it's time to wet the whistle, man. It's good to see you. What have you been up to, brother? I haven't seen you on here a while. I know you've been busy. Drinking me some of that Derrick Shine, man. That's so good. Damn good. But yeah, getting back to you, Zach. Yeah, like having 2 or 3 little mini thumper infusers, definitely the way to go. So if you can find somebody to rig up yourself, you can basically make 3 1-gallon little teeny copper, and it doesn't have to be pretty, you know. It just has to not leak. Put your little infusion. Put a ferrule on the top with a butterfly valve with a little spool on top of that. You can fill the spool. You can open the bypass, take the pressure off of it, drain it, and then close your drain and open up the butterfly valve and dump your flavor in there. It's copper chamber, so you don't have to worry about it cracking, you know, if it's colder than the heat. Because, you know, if you have a thumper in a jar rig, that jar is 200 degrees. You know, it's 190 plus degrees. And you start dumping room temperature infusions in it, it can crack or explode pretty easily. That's why I definitely don't. I want to steer. Or you can preheat. You know, you can get the microwave and heat up your infusion juice and get it to 150, 170 degrees in the microwave, and then pour it in hot. Use your grill gloves or whatever and pour it in hot. Or you can just swap out jars. That works too. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, man. I need to get some seeds started as well. I appreciate that, man. I'm gonna do that tomorrow probably. I got some starters out there. I need to work on that. Glad you mentioned that, brother. Blackberry wine. I like it. I've got some right inside there. Blackberry, blueberry, and a mulberry. Mulberry is a good combination. It's okay by itself, but it's really good combined with others. It get with like a blackberry, mulberry. It gives a lot of depth and character to it. Yeah, we was worried about you, Shadow. I'm good. Glad to see you on here, man. We was wondering about you. We were saying if we mentioned your name enough times that nurses. Well, now I definitely got to talk to you, brother. What's going on? Get up with me off the after show. We're getting ready to end this show, and give me a shout. Good to see you, brother. Good seeing you. Thanks for stopping in, man. Tell Wendy I said howdy. Phil, first timer. I'm here. I'm from Brookings, Oregon. Awesome. I got nothing to do on YouTube. Man, I wish you'd gotten here a little sooner. Normally we wouldn't be here right now, Phil, but I was answering a few questions. But it's good to have you here, man. We get here on every Tuesday and Saturday around 8 Eastern time, and we talk about making wine and beer and distilling, and we're talking about making whiskeys and gins and brandies and tequilas and deal with a lot of beginners and helping steer beginners on the right path and talk a lot about safety. And I know a lot of people have inhibitions about making their own liquor because there is some inherent dangers, in making it. But we can minimize those with some good practices and a little knowledge, and that's why we're here, man. We're here to answer a lot of questions and help get people steered in the right directions. We can help you, build a mash and learn how to mash in and learn how to convert starches and do all that jazz and lots of booze, man. That's right, booze, and lots of blues. And that's if you like to drink and you got a lot of thirsty friends, you found the right place, brother. Because we'll have you making some of the best stuff. You won't believe how good and how easy it is to make and distill your own alcohol. It's very, very simple, and it can also be very complex. If you want to take the rabbit hole and learn the science, it can get very complex, but it can also be very simple. And we try to keep it simple, but we also try to explain a lot about why and how. So definitely glad you found us. Put us, hit that bell and save us, and yeah, make sure you hit that bell and hit that like button and subscribe. And that way you'll get notifications every Tuesday and Saturday when we go live. And there's a few other lives. Phil Billy does a lot of lives. I do a lot of lives, and they call me Bad Santa. And Phil Billy, he does a lot of lives and videos and stuff and a lot of informational stuff as well. Um, but yeah, get with us a little earlier on Saturdays and Tuesdays and hang out with us, drink a little bit, and bring your questions, and we'll get you going. Donate to the cause. Well, Phil Billy provides this StreamYards for us. He pays for the StreamYard. He helps pay for this, and he asks nothing. He asks for nothing in return. But if you want to go to philbillymoonshine.com and you're interested in getting into it, you can buy some stuff off him. You can just tune in though. Really, that's what we want most is just tuning in and joining us, ask questions, become part of the show, and that's you are now. You're part of the show. So, but yeah, just hit that bell and subscribe and bring your questions and we can all learn together. We got, yeah, Fibbley's got raffles going on. I got a vest, moonshine. Let me go get my vest. I need to plug that. I don't know if I know. But I finally got this. Finally got my vest sewn up. So here's our Moonshine Militia vest. Let me zoom in on that center piece there. Nice little vest. So we got those you can buy. We've also got t-shirts and lots of other things you can buy. But of course the vest is the coolest thing we got, right? We got flags that you can we got a little bit of merch. We got some flags and stuff that you can fly, but the vest is the bomb. I carry the vest. I do the vest. Damon and Tom have some flags, but 10% of all the sales, whether it comes from me and Tom or Damon, goes to Phil and towards the club, which is what our vest is for. But yeah, we've got a lot of t-shirts and stuff you can buy. Of course, the vest is the coolest thing. I'm definitely gonna plug the vest. I haven't been, but we got about 25 vests, and the whole vest, patch kit and all, is $100 plus shipping. I mean, you can't beat that, right? I make less on that than a lot of people do the t-shirts, right? So it's an awesome deal. Yeah, you can get your t-shirts on Phil's site. Get you a flag and banner. Join the Moonshine Militia. Tell them old Santa sent you, and just come every Tuesday and Saturday and hang with us, drink with us, and we got a lot of people on here that never distilled the first time, that just learn about, like talking about it and learn about it. And some of them are eventually going to do it one piece at a time. My buddy Alan Bishop has this one piece at a time Distilling Institute, and a lot of people, like most of us, can't afford to chunk down and buy everything at once, so we just buy a little piece at a time as we can afford it each check, and before you know it, we'll have enough to put together and have a nice little setup. So, but yeah, if you're interested in the vest, let me know, get with me, and we can get you. I do PayPal, Zelle. Not done the Venmo thing, but I do Zelle and PayPal. Pretty much everybody does that. Or hell, if you want to wait, you can send a check, and after it clears, I can ship it out. But yeah, I saw that you all doing your abate elections. I saw that the abate was doing the elections and stuff in your neck of the woods. For those that don't know, it's a biker safety group. It's all the clubs combined. So 1%ers and all kind of combined into abate. It's all about safety, like we are here. So that's awesome. I think Chris was. Nah, I ain't gonna say it. All right, brother. Yeah, we're going to be out of here too. But Phil, thanks for joining us. Love me. Thanks for joining us. Come back and see us Saturday, 8 Eastern. And hang with us. Watch some of the old podcasts, though, and it'll answer a lot of the questions that you have and kind of get you kind of introduced to us and what we're all about. But we definitely appreciate everybody being here, and this podcast is for, the community. It's for the people, and it's for everybody to ask their questions and come in and hang out and, let us know what's going on with you, your successes, your failures, and we can talk about how we can try to make it better. All right, we got a late question coming in. Is it illegal to make moonshine? Federally, it's illegal. Kind of like marijuana. Federally, still illegal in all 50 states. but there are states that do allow legal distillation. So, yeah, American Bikers for Awareness and Education. Yeah, I couldn't remember what the acronym was. But yeah, Brian, it is, but in some states it's still legal, or is now legal. So, it's something that's there are court cases that are going to try to make it legal for everybody. Clint, good to see you, brother. I know your internet's coming in and out, and it's getting late. We'll see you Saturday, brother. But yeah, it's some states like in Missouri, you can do 100 gallons per person per household. And if you have two people in the household that are 21 years or older and are able to do that, you can do up to 200. If you have three 21-year-olds, it doesn't go to 300, Joe. But up to 200 gallons a year. West Virginia, I think it's up to maybe 5 gallons per person per year, which is a little low. I think they started out with like 1 and then they moved it up to 5. Woo. But they may have changed it. There's several states where it is illegal, kind of like marijuana, where it's recreational in some states. Right now, you can just go in any, little stores and buy it, but still federally illegal, right? So it is strange times with that. I do know when I first started, you wouldn't have caught me dead being online talking to just the general public about moonshining and making it. But times have changed, and we're trying to make it legal. We're trying to get it to where, it's understood this is part of our, it should be part of our life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, which is what it's all about. And used to, alcohol was all about the tax, right? It's all about taxation. And that's the reason why it's still illegal to do, is because Uncle Sam wants his cut. And once we can get it to where the hobbyists can still do a hobby, I mean, I file my own taxes every year, so I do know that if I don't sell, but if I were to do a hobby and sell as a hobbyist, I mean, there's like hobbyist people that make, let's just say, wine. Wine's legal in all 50 states to make. Beer is too. So a hobbyist that makes wine, you can make up to certain states. Again, each state has different regulations and rules to how many gallons, but certain states that you can make as many gallons as you want to. Certain states it's 1,000. Certain states it's 500. Certain states over this amount you need to pay $100 fee every 5 years or whatever. It varies state by state, so it's kind of weird like that it depends on the state. But when it comes to distilled spirits, taxes are charged by the proof. So beer and wine are generally pretty low proof. So there's not much taxes involved. So Uncle Sam's like, it's not worth our time and trouble over the wine and beer. We don't make much money from that anyway. We make all the money from the whiskey, right? Which is high proof, high tax. And so hopefully we can get that removed, because really the federal government doesn't get that much of a substantial amount of tax dollars from the distilled spirits in the used to back in the days when Washington first made that tax, which he was the first one. That was the first tax we actually had, was a liquor tax, and there was a whiskey rebellion based around it. But it was a big deal for the government. It paid for a lot of things, right? And they needed income, and tariffs just wasn't cutting it, because back in the day, the federal government made all their money from tariffs, not taxes. And they basically got away from taxes by coming here, because that's what they were doing in England, was a heavy burden of tax and taxation. So they didn't take it lightly when they did taxes back in the day. Now now they tax everything, the air you breathe. And if you breathe it back in, I'm sure they'd like to tax it twice. But hopefully we can get some legislation and get it removed, because there's a lot more tax base now, and a lot of other things, and tariffs and other things that they can do to get their money. But right now, I'd say the biggest factor in keeping it is the industry itself, and all the money they spend, the legal liquor distribution and all the commercial distilleries, and they're the ones that are paying the politicians to keep us from making our own at home. Because if we make our own at home, then they'll realize that, like Derek and Joe and most of us, once you get seasoned and good, you can make as good a liquor at home than you can buy off the shelf. And once we do that, once they figure that out, it's like they're not going to want to buy ours anymore, right? So, yeah, it was. Yeah, but so yeah, we try to keep it informal and keep it, laid back. We're all chill, and we understand the science of it, and try to explain things in practical matters and kind of break the science down to where everybody can understand it. I mean, I could sit up here and use big words and benefits nobody. I mean, I can research and pull up some pages that it's just, even I have trouble understanding it, and I've had a lot of college chemistry and a lot of college biology and stuff, and it's like, and it's just to impress, and are you educating or are you trying to impress? And here we're educating. We're teaching you in practical, simple terms how to make it and make it good, and enjoy the hobby and be safe. Safety is our biggest factor. We want everybody to be safe. And we don't want people like O'Sheen getting burnt on their legs by their steels, spilling out on them. So we try to, from Minnesota, and the only thing illegal here is, we're not going to get too political. Yeah, we try to steer away from that. It's one of the few places that, every once in a while it gets brought in, but we resist. We try to resist that, because that's everywhere you go. Somebody says something, and the next thing you know, it's getting political, and they're just throwing, dogging people back and forth, and I hate that. I don't want that, because it's everywhere you go. You can't even talk about a movie or a song or a video without it becoming, political these days on all this social media. So we try our best to stay away from that. Every once in a while, we'll just get crazy and get it out of our systems. But I have to be a lot drunker than I am right now to really get that pissed off and outspoken. I try not to. But yeah, we all just like hanging out and having a good time and talking about it. It's a pretty good place to learn how to distill. There's not any other place that I know of on the internet that will handle questions and deal with your questions and answer your questions and help you, choose what's the best and what still to get, and how to help make your mashes, how to make them better, and pretty much all aspects of beer making ish. I'm not the best beer maker, but wine maker I'm pretty damn good, and whiskey and bourbon's even better, and most of the distillates. So, but it is strange how the systems have changed, over the years, and how things have gone from hush hush and you'd never talk about it to, being on an open platform publicly talking about it. And I think everybody's come to the realization we have a lot more shit to worry about in our world right now than, Joe Schmo making a little wine, and if it doesn't turn out well, making brandy out of it in his home, right? And we got people cooking meth, fentanyl, and all these other things. Yeah, making beer and wine and your own brandy or whiskey at home should be a very low priority for most. And unless you're selling it, that opens up another can of worms. Then you're talking about tax dollars. But in Missouri, you have to keep it in your home. You're not allowed to take it out of the home. You're not allowed to sell it. But for your own consumption, and your friends. They can come by. You can have wedding parties, and I think there's even a permit that if you want a special permit for a liquor that you made at home to go towards a specific, like a wedding party or something, you can get a special permit to take it to that for that purpose. But you have to pay. It's a tax, of course, and you have to pay for it. But yeah, if you want to learn more about it in Missouri, especially, you can go to Missouri.gov and search distilling, and you'll find all about their laws. I did that because I got tired of people saying, "Oh, it's not legal there," and all this, and so I like getting information from a good source. So I went straight to the .gov. I read it directly off their government website. Yes, it is legal there. So Alaska's kind of gray area. West Virginia. There's other states that are kind of grayish. But yeah, it's something that more and more states are going to adopt. I know there's a court case in Texas right now that's being heard by their state Supreme Court, and hopefully it gets to our federal Supreme Court, and we finally make it part of our constitutional rights, because it's part of our pursuit of happiness. We're not hurting anyone. We're not selling it to anyone. We're using it for our own personal consumption, and just like the bedroom, they should stay out of that. So that's the way we feel about it, and that's what we push. And in the militia, that's what we're pushing. For legalization, and there's distillers organizations, amateur distillers organizations, and other things that are also pushing for it. So hopefully someday, we'll get it legalized, and our hobby can become something legal. It's strange to me that people are able to do marijuana before whiskey. Okay, I never expected that, but here we are, in 2026, and this is the world we're in now. So I would have never dreamed any of this back in the 80s and 90s, but here we are. And with that, it's about 11:45. It's been a long, long show. Usually we go from 8 to 10 on Tuesdays, maybe 10:30, 11. But on Saturdays, we'll go to 11, sometimes a little after. So, but we missed Saturday, so we had catching up to do, right? And I had a little drinking to catch up to. And now I need to add a little food onto it, because I didn't have anything to eat today, but about 4 bites out of this sandwich that's now stale, that I tried to eat a little bit of before the show. But appreciate everybody for tuning in, and join us again Saturday, what would it be, the 7th, Saturday the 7th, and bring your questions, especially for our new guests and new members. Definitely bring you some questions, and Chris can help you make the best gummies. There you go. But yeah, jump back in here and join us, and bring your questions, and we'll get you lined up to what's a good still to buy for whatever distillate you want to make, and we'll help you make the distillate and guide you every step of the way. All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. It's 11:45, and I am out of here. I'm gonna go play me some Arc Raiders. I'm going to Spernanza, so all you gamers out there can come have a little bit. I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you very much. And check them all out. Yeah, but hopefully they're informative to you. And if you have questions after watching them, by all means, that's what we're here for. Bring them here, and we'll sit and talk about it. I don't have all the answers. I have most all the answers, and I can base it on science, but for the answers that I don't have, we can do the research. I've got really good resources and stuff that I can pull you the scientific answers out that you're looking for. So join us every Tuesday and Saturday. Until then, peace out, shine on, love y'all. See you Saturday.